Welcome back to the home studio and welcome to my worst nightmare ever, episode 48 of the Stevie Richards Show. My name is Stevie Richards. Today, if you hadn't guessed, I've been trying to avoid this moment, but also I believe there's going to be a lot of great information here and a lot of great stories about leading up and including Unforgiven 2004. This is part one. We're going to have multiple parts of this, and joining me, hopefully, for all these parts will be my co-host, James Romero.
Yeah, I hope so too. Dying Stevie. I just can't. The problem with having children, I've found, is that they're basically mobile disease bags. They will pick up anything, they will hand it straight to you. So yeah, I'm diseased up, but let's not affect. This episode is something that you've not been looking to. Forget about me. Genuinely, this episode is something you've not been looking forward to. I always thought you were joking when you said that. I was like, oh, it was so terrible, and then, afterwards we were talking off air, or maybe for the Patreon people we were talking, and I was like, damn, you really hate this. And
you hated watching it as much as I did, right? Outside of me being involved with the actual match, you could not say terrible, horrible.
I couldn't perceive of the mind that would come up with this and think, oh, yeah, okay, fine. They would find it in their whichever of their computers were working that day would find hilarious. I can't conceive of the person who would put this on television or pay-per-view and think this was good TV. It was, or even on paper, it could ever be good TV.
Well, the whole storyline is what we're going to start talking about. It's not just the one night, but what's possessing them to feature this each and every week on television, because that was like one of my most featured characters in WWE, if not in wrestling. I was on TV almost every week at that point.
Well,
does that make you feel better?
No. So we'll do, before we do the intro, actually, because we're going to be talking about, obviously, what we do with Patreon every single week as well, with the watch-alongs and all that kind of jazz. But first things first, we have a correction to make, as we're sort of doing every week at the moment, and this regards the Eugene character. Now, Nick Dinsmore probably told me, and I've long forgotten because I've got a sieve memory, but we may have hinted or at least outright said that Vince McMahon came up with this character, or somebody in WWE, whereas someone had informed you that it was actually Nick Dinsmore himself who came up with this character.
Yes, a very reliable source. Nova, Simon Dean, Mike Bucci, who worked directly with OVW and with Nick Dinsmore, and obviously being in talent relations, he knew people getting called up, who pitched what. He was more privy to the information. We made an educated guess, as the subject of this show, which we're talking about, was from Vince McMahon. So 99% of the time, Vince will come up with the ideas of guys in dresses and wigs, or making a wrestler a special needs wrestler. It's a good educated guess, but we want to correct it because, and Nova said I could read the text on the air. It said, bro, I just caught a clip of your show about Eugene. Nick actually came up with that on his own. He 100% came up with the entire character and pitched all of that to Vince McMahon personally. I was there the day he did it. He walked into the office of Vince with his jacket button crooked, his hair messed up, all of it. The little thing where he used to chew on his thumb, he stole that from a fan that used to sit in the audience at OVW. But Nick Dinsmore crafted all of that. It was genius.
Wow. Well, color.
Unless they had a worse idea, and he goes, I better pitch this one, and maybe it's the less worse of the two.
But the thing is, you can tell it's 2004, where we just assume it's Vince coming up with all these wacky things, to sort of chasing the dragon of the Attitude Era, I guess, and trying to recapture it, and just put in anything. Did you ever hear Heidenreich, your favourite, I know? The original pitch for him to come in was that he was going to be a frozen Nazi thawed out.
100%. And when I was asked, I said, that's a great idea. You should do that. We can't get in any trouble for that. Like, yeah, full-blown, like, Nazi and maybe Vince just watched, like, it wasn't even a movie yet, Captain America, was it, in 2004?
We can say Austin Powers, because he must have seen cryogenically frozen whatever.
That's more Vince's speed, you're right. Austin Powers.
That was only 7 years old at the time.
So you're saying to me there's going to be a vignette of Heidenreich getting unfrozen as a frozen Nazi, but then the whole vignette in week 2 is just going to be him peeing like Austin Powers did for a long time because he was in hibernation.
Yeah, evacuation.
That's a Vince McMahon idea.
Evacuation.
That would be a Vince McMahon.
You must have seen that. I love Austin Powers.
I remember.
Love Austin Powers. And then maybe they could do on the 3rd week is like, how can I control the volume of my voice? And then...
Well, as long as Heidenreich didn't have any bigger plans, if you know what I mean, then keep him peeing and the volume of his voice. Do not let him out of the country. Do not let him expand at all.
No, hunting for Lebensraum, and he probably would have tried and taken over Canada before Trump did, 20 years after the fact.
Heidenreich could have been super over if they wanted to do some tours of Argentina or something,
Yeah, well, he'd probably bump into a load of people he knew. Go to NASA.
All right, we're going to move on.
Go to NASA as well. Oh, I remember you. Right, okay then. So let's do the intro itself. We've got YouTube channels, etc. I'm not even going to plug, man. I've done nothing on it for 2 weeks or a week and a half or whatever. But Stevie Richards Fitness, I implore you all to go over there if you want to see Stevie Richards reviewing, I nearly said employing, reviewing the latest gym equipment and such, and his honest, unvarnished opinions there. We also have the cameo. You have the cameo, the Stevie Richards cameo, the most highly engaged, or one of the most highly engaged celebrity cameos of 2025. You even got in the top 50 list quite recently as well, with so many people going there as well. But once again, I implore you to go there if you want a cameo. Stevie puts in more effort than basically anybody else has ever done on that platform. So instead of just saying, hello, welcome, well done on whatever you've done, you will get a proper response, you will get proper research, and you will get something that you actually properly treasure as well. So that being said, we've also got the Patreon as well, the Stevie Richards Patreon, going from strength to strength as it does every single week. What are we going to be watching this coming Monday?
Well, we're going to be watching the ROH Proving Grounds match from 2015, myself versus one of my favorite opponents, Jay Lethal. And also, I think people are going to want to see the Unforgiven 2004 Mystery Woman versus Tomko match eventually, which now you're refusing to watch again.
I got secondhand embarrassment. Like, I get that a lot with live TV. Like when I know something's going to go wrong and I can't handle it. And knowing how much you hated it, and then just the fact that it just kept going. It just kept going.
That's probably what I hated most about it. And we're gonna tell that story, right? During this episode, I hope. Speaking of intros, before we move on, I really do want to give great amount of credit and also thanks to Chris, our editor, for putting together that intro that you saw in the beginning. It's something all 3 of us try to do each and every episode, is improve things, have little special intros, new graphics, upgrade things. And Chris did an amazing job recreating the Saturday night's main event opening for this episode. He did an awesome job.
You didn't tell me he was doing it either. You just sent it me yesterday evening.
Well, you told us we work on stuff all the time.
That's fine.
We have
I
stuff
know.
We have stuff playing for the 2 weeks off. If we're gonna revamp a lot of stuff, but no, I asked him about that. I also have wanting to do Botch Watch as the Baywatch opening, with Botch Watch coming across the screen. Yeah, I'm trying to get the guy who did the cover song for the Baywatch opening to let us use it, just like John Worthy, which John Worthy might be reshooting the music video or allowing us to use the current music video at the end for the Patreon list.
Speaking of music as well, I didn't put this in the format. I just wanted to make mention. Rick Derringer died. Hulk Hogan's and Junkyard Dog grabbed them cakes and all that kind of thing. Some of the best songs of the 80s. Theme songs.
Was he the one that got hit over the head with the... Oh, no, that was a different guy. The guy that hit over the head by Piper with the Gold album. He was Cyndi Lauper's boyfriend.
That's David Wolf.
David Wolf, I'm sorry. Yeah, Rick Derringer. Also Demolition. One of my favorite entrance songs.
Here comes the X. That's a great song, that. The guy who did Harry Slash, who did ECW's theme and a bunch of themes there, sort of pre-Harry Slash kind of feel the Demolition theme. I really love that.
That was really it went a lot harder than most of the WWE entrance music, the themes at the time. It was still today, when you hear that, that's got a pretty edgy kind of riff to it. I really do like it.
We're going to be talking about a bit of news as well at the end of this show, but let's get straight into WWE Unforgiven 2004, the pay-per-view. I know. We're going to be dealing quite a lot with the mystery woman thing in this episode, and then episode 2 we're going to be dealing with other stuff as well. But a bit of background information as well. The first WWE pay-per-view, I think ever in Oregon, or at least Portland, maybe, or at least one of the first, drew 8,313 fans, which was 7,000 paying a little under $500,000. Fairly disappointing. This was, unless you sort of look back and it's 2004 and just everything's sort of down, I guess, at this point. But Portland was, I'm sure you'll know, with Don Owens, a hotbed of pro wrestling for nearly 30 years until I think the Portland territory shut down in maybe 1992. Strict commissions had seen WWE not appear in Oregon as much as they'd like to. They may have not appeared for 10 years or something, but they were really struggling with commissions. A fan wrote in a few weeks ago when we were soliciting questions, and from Sparky, and it says, since the Oregon State Athletic Commission was hostile, if you know, you know, toward wrestling for the longest time, what was your reaction when you found out that you'd be working Unforgiven 2004 in Portland, Oregon? Do you remember any other wrestlers who had a reaction to that news? So do you know why Oregon had such an issue with wrestling for so long?
No, I have no clue. I just remember when we went to Oregon, and I think even after I was released in 2008, they started to go back to Oregon a lot more often. I have no idea, to be honest with you. I didn't know anything like this because if there's an athletic commission there, obviously there were still many states that had an athletic commission, not as many as did not at this time after Vince or a representative had been gone in front of Congress to say it's basically entertainment. There were still commissions holding on. I know New York, Kentucky, who else? Oklahoma had a commission. They still do to this day. Oklahoma, I know for a fact. New York, I know for a fact. Kentucky, I'm not sure. Possibly, probably.
Well, they did because I believe Ian Rotten. Yeah, not Axel Rotten.
Oh, yeah,
Ian
that was
Rotten.
the whole thing with Ian Rotten.
Yeah, so basically he reignited the commission in Kentucky, I think, for doing all the hardcore nonsense.
Yeah, that'll do it.
Yeah, that'll
do it.
I've got an answer for you, actually. Athletic Commission in Portland wanted to test wrestlers for steroids and other things because they saw it as a legit sporting event, so basically they didn't want to pay taxes, I guess, or have a number of their wrestlers tested for steroids.
So basically it would have been a mystery woman, one woman or man show for 3 hours at that time, because I would have passed the drug test, trust me. That's a weird thing, and that's also... Man, in this day and age, there's really not much social media, but just my guess, my reaction to that is, don't you kind of admit guilt if you don't want to go there because they want to test for steroids? Mm-hmm. Got me, brother.
Well, they probably want to collect taxes as well. You know how these commissions work.
Oh, that's all. No, that was code word for give us a little bit extra and what we won't test. That's what I think. Commissions are, the commissions are just absolutely worthless. The only commission, Shane Douglas talked about it, the only time I saw any doctor with a commission do their job and do their due diligence, probably saved Shane's life, if not his ability to walk for the rest of his life, was that Madison Square Garden match where he literally, his back was destroyed, could not walk, and if he took one bad bump, it would have been over. And that's where Vince got in this little doctor's face, and the doctor, because the doctor's living in the real world where you don't assault people just because they say something you don't like. And Vince got so mad with that. And that's when Shane cut the promo at the Garden.
He's told that story. It's still out there as well on the, what was our podcast called? Franchise University. God, I'm sorry.
Yeah, the show I stole.
Yes, yeah. The Franchise University. Yeah, the YouTube channel's still out there, and the clip's still there as well. And it might also be on WSI. Hunt that out, because it's really worth listening to that story. It's a great story. The crowd, we're going back to Portland, Oregon now, Unforgiven 2004. The crowd were fairly hot early on, but by match 2, they just stopped caring. I don't even know what
match was that.
It was Trish and Victoria. No, it was Trish and Victoria. It wasn't a bad match. Well, they had an opening match with like Maven, and I can't remember who else because I didn't write that down. Then they had the opening match with Flair and Batista versus Benoit and Regal, which went fine. Maybe it was a bit long, I don't know, for an opening match. But, the baby faces won, etc. And then just for whatever reason, the crowds went, ugh. And they didn't really come back up for the rest of the show.
Yeah, I noticed that. And I was talking about my match, which was technically the third match, I guess, of the show, or 2A, 2B, going along with Victoria and Trish. That tag match in the beginning, I don't know if it was formatted in the best way possible. I know the reason why I think the people were a little bit dead for match 2 is because, not because it was a tag match and not because it went a little bit long, because I did feel it went a little long. The players were not opening match talents. So you got to see and react to some of the top guys in the company, and then you get to the women.
Mm-hmm.
You see what I mean? And then it kind of picked it back up with, I think the next match was the ladder match with Christian and Jericho. We'll get to all this. But what I'm saying is, I think the fans were just a little tired because they got so excited to see top guys in the first match, where they're usually a lot later on in the show. And then it felt like, you know what it felt like? And at the time, I remember this, the girls always had the spot right before the main event of Raw and SmackDown.
Mm-hmm.
It was just kind of a palate cleanser, even though the girls worked hard and did a lot. That's why I think they were conditioned. Big match, the girls, another big match.
So, it was Maven versus Rodney Mack. That's who it was. Keep in mind that Benoit was actually, world champion 1 month ago, and now he's in the opening match of a Raw exclusive pay-per-view.
Tagging up with Regal, which was really odd. Can't remember how that came to be.
No, I can't, because Regal was... He was a bad guy the entire time, wasn't he? I mean, when did he... because he started tagging with Eugene.
This is the Eugene.
Yeah.
This is the Eugene stuff. Yeah, I think, actually, you know what? Benoit might have stepped in because they said on commentary that Eugene, the exact terminology JR said was, Eugene got disabled by Triple H.
He also said his career would be over. He was like back weeks later as well. But hey, there you go. Right, before we actually get to the match itself, I want to talk more about sort of 2004 in WWE in general. And we've talked about the Ruthless Aggression era last week or the week before. I think it was last week. And, various things that led up to the Unforgiven 2004 pay-per-view. Why, in your opinion, I've written down some stuff on the list that you can refer to, or if you want me to jump in at any point, but what was going wrong by 2004? And when did this trend start where, for whatever reason, the fans weren't buying what WWE was selling?
Honestly, overall, the overarching theme would be, I have no idea. Because when you look at the roster, and now we're talking about WCW people and starting to get more top guys in there mixed in with that, and then other guys are getting over in the first match. Flair and Batista, part of Evolution, versus Benoit, who had the world title a month before. William Regal standing up for Eugene. Eugene being, basically, like I said, kind of like the John Cena for a certain demographic of people, and also getting pushed. Then you have Triple H kind of hitting his stride once again, and everybody in between. The females, Trish, Victoria, you still had lots of females that could work too. The roster was stacked. The production was always on point. The look, the themes, the schedule, it seemed like there was a lot of sweet spots for talent, for creative and all that stuff. It just didn't translate. It was so strange. Maybe, like I said last week, the sale of WCW, maybe WCW fans were like, I'm not going to watch WWE. I like WCW, and some people like WWE. Off of that, the lack kind of, I guess, of motivation to beat another rival company kind of rested on their laurels and started to phone it in a little bit, even with maybe the greatest talent roster up to date that they've ever had as far as combined wrestlers. And the developmental system was starting to work because we had Orton versus Triple H in a world title match. We had all these people. Brock Lesnar, he had left, but he had 2 to 3 years of a really strong run. It just didn't make any sense to me. So it could be, we weren't in the great, the great financial crisis in 07, 08, 09. So from the fans' disposable income, cost of tickets, really, maybe it's just fatigue. Like, oh, okay, the Monday Night War is over and WWE wins and nothing left.
I'll give you a couple of theories, just as me as a fan at the time, because I remember, this is the time that I stopped watching wrestling so religiously, is around 2002. And I don't quite know why either. I remember the Invasion being awful. I remember Steve Austin shaking Vince McMahon's hand and just thinking, I'm constantly thinking, why is the WWF at that point just not giving the fans what they want? They are just going, they seem to just be shooting themselves in the foot constantly. It was all self-inflicted wounds. The Austin thing started. The invasion was horrible. But then after the invasion, it seemed like WWF, still at the time, was getting back in the groove. And they had, at that point, as you say, the greatest roster maybe in the history of wrestling by mid-2002. Austin, just before he left. Brock, Kurt Angle, Triple H. Shawn Michaels was just returning, at least in a non-wrestling role by the time, like in around June, I guess. Undertaker, Kane, Jericho, there's millions of them. The Rock was still hanging about at that point. And then by the end of 2002, it almost felt like 1992 to 1993. It felt like such a transitional year where at the beginning of 92, you still had all those stars. Then by the end of 92, early 1993, it just stripped down to the bare bones and something was completely different. And with Raw as well, because you were on Raw, I always felt that when 2002 rolled around, Raw's look, one, was much darker. I always talk about colours and stuff. I mentioned this in the Patreon with Ring of Honor. It seemed a lot blacker. It seemed a lot darker. The colour seemed a bit oversaturated, and it seemed more overproduced compared to what it was a year earlier. I don't know if there's anything you ever picked up on at the time.
Well, also, I think, I don't know the exact year, but in that time frame, they were converting the creative workflow from a booker, say a Pat Patterson, Vince McMahon, or a small circle of people, Russo, Cornette, whatever they worked during the Attitude Era or even before that, to Hollywood writers hiring people from outside wrestling and doing that and maybe wanting to make it look maybe more clean. I agree with that. There needs to be a certain grittiness, not darkness, but grittiness to the product to make it feel like you're in a big fight atmosphere. And they kind of lost that. But then again, they could be, and you would think too, oh, maybe it's the XFL because the XFL was around 2000 or all these things happened in order. I'm just saying that the fallout from all those things started to turn some fans off and stuff. But I can't see them caring about that. I'm thinking as I'm going, I'm looking right here. They have their ups and downs. The Austin turn could have literally turned a lot of people off to the product and never come back. And it's very easy to turn off fans to go look at something else. It's really hard. You got to string together a lot of good shows to get word of mouth so you can say, hey, you got to start watching again. Look at what they're doing. So having the greatest roster ever, is it really the greatest roster ever if the ratings keep going down? I believe it was. I'm just saying nobody got to see that greatest roster ever as the decline happened.
I remember at the time, I think 2003 for Raw, how big the ratings were when The Rock and Steve Austin came back. Just for that month, where they were still, both active. Or Rock was active, a month after as well. But man, people were clamoring for that. And I remember in 2003, I remember just thinking, they're trying to recapture the magic, and it's not quite the same. Can you capture lightning in a bottle more than once? Even with Steve Austin, it seemed no.
Well, let's not forget you mentioned a lot of great names, and you still have John Cena. We didn't mention him before. We couldn't see him, but now we see him. But, something like that where he was the beginning of the ruthless aggression era with that slap to Kurt Angle, and then we were off to the races with that. And then at WrestleMania 20, that was about the height. He had the U.S. title match against Big Show at WrestleMania 20 where he won the title. It seemed to be hot, especially post-WrestleMania. But it wasn't to be because the date of this show was
September.
Unforgiven. What was the
September 12th, 13th,
okay.
Something like that.
So you're not really in that WrestleMania revenge type thing where the house shows are always going to be up. We go international after WrestleMania. This could be like another little dip after that. And of course, this might be the beginning of part-time, former full-time superstars. You talk about The Rock dipped in and out. Austin became kind of a authority figure. He was special ref at Lesnar and Goldberg at WrestleMania 20.
Hogan. Kevin Nash was there.
Hogan. Oh, yep. Yeah. There you go.
It's great.
So that's a big mystery. I mean, you look at it on paper and you're just saying, you got to be made, you got to double and triple the value of the company based off the roster, right? But it just didn't happen.
Do you remember the first ever draft? We'll probably talk about the draft in more detail in a future episode, Take a Drink. But Do you remember feeling like the fans were rejecting the draft in any way? Because I remember as a fan watching at home, I was like, I hate this. There are all these dream matches that we'll never see now. You could have had like a soft split kind of thing, but it also seemed that all the tag teams were split up, like Jeff and Matt and the APA and the Dudleys. And Bubba Ray did fine on Raw. Devon was made a vicar or a priest or whatever he was, and I'm just like... Oh.
Yeah, he had Deacon Batista with him.
And Deacon Batista with it. That's another episode in the future because you were the first person to wrestle Batista around the loop, I think, in WWE.
On the house shows, through Texarkana, all down there in the South.
So, do you remember the fans all feeling, rejecting it, or do you feel like the original roster split was an issue for the fans buying tickets?
I wouldn't know. I mean, I was a football fan, so for me to see the draft happen, but then when they started breaking up the teams and breaking up all the time, money, and effort they put into these properties, the tag teams, and the tag team division during that time with the Dudleys, Edge and Christian, which I think Edge broke out by the time we're talking about. I'm just saying the history of these teams carried a division, but never gave the rub to the next generation before you broke them up. If you're going to break them up, give us 3 or 4 more tag teams that can take those spots, but they just broke them up, and then the tag team division suffered. It still kind of suffers today because makeshift tag teams are winning titles, and tag teams that are established cannot win matches. It's very, very strange.
Yeah, because I know they want to push Jeff more, and he had his issues, of course. Matt ended up doing quite well from it because he was very creative mind. Came up with the V1 thing on SmackDown, then with Shannon Moore and everything. But I remember thinking, why would you split up Farouk and Bradshaw? Why would you split up the Hardys? There were so many headliners. They're not going to get anywhere. And then by mid-2002, they got rid of the hardcore title, the European title, and I think they got rid of the IC title as well. So what are all these guys fighting over?
And I think Ultimo Dragon still have the light heavyweight title. So that's still in existence even after cutting all those ones out.
Just nuts. Was there anything else? I mean, I wrote down a load of different things. Like tonally, I remember WWE being all over the place as well. It's like with the right to censor, obviously being born out of the L. Brent Bozell and the Christian right wing, trying to censor SmackDown.
The PTC, the Parent Television Council.
Yeah, the PTC. And then SmackDown, because that was on UPN, it was network TV, they got a lot less raunchy. They really cut down on the DX stuff and the swearing and all that kind of thing. But then in Raw in 2002 or 2003, occasionally you'd have hot lesbian action, then Katie Vick, but then you wouldn't really be allowed to swear. So they'd have like these really bizarre extremes, but then like quite Melba-toast a lot of the other stuff. It's very weird. They didn't know what they wanted.
I couldn't explain it. I don't even know. Maybe it was the hour they put that stuff in, but I can't recall Katie Vick stuff or any of these other things, HLA, being put strictly from 10 to 11 or the second or third hour of Raw. I think sometimes they open the show with that kind of stuff at 8.
Well, I guess it'd be better than the 20-minute promos they did as well. Is there anything else that you can remember as far as, like between 2002, 2004, where WWE had made some major changes, maybe backstage, that bled onto the screen? Or, like Vince being more of a control freak, or different personnel, different agents, different edicts, that kind of thing?
Well, we'll get to Vince with the whole Mystery Woman stuff. But you know what? This might have been the time, like after the sale of WCW to WWE and not having any competition. And then there was kind of that lull and then the invasion angle. But during that time, I believe 2000, they always had rules, but these are the times where the silly rules of the dress code, of the tag rope, of just that nobody's going to do this spot, but we want everybody to do this. Like paying attention to all this stuff that doesn't matter as much as how can we get people to start watching again? How can we get people to start buying pay-per-views again? How can we get people to come to the house shows? No, they were concerned with this micromanaging BS that just doesn't matter in the end. And you know what that did? What they tried to do was take people that couldn't conform in regular society, which is basically pro wrestling, special people that are just different, and you know they aren't just your 9 to 5 workers. And they tried to get everybody to conform to be more corporate. That's the overarching theme of that.
I just had a look at the tag team champions from 2002. You're going to laugh. I mean, beforehand, you know, there were the Dudley Boys, the Hardy Boys, Chris Jericho and The Rock. This was 2001, I guess. Undertaker and Kane, you know, some heavy hitters as far as tag teams. Then by 2002, we've got Spike Dudley and Taz. And that's not a knock on either of them. It just made no sense for them to be WWE tag team champions. Billy and Chuck, Rico and Rikishi.
Dude, you're mentioning 2 teams already that I didn't even remember ever had the tag belts.
Yeah.
Spike and Taz, Rico and Rikishi. I mean, I don't even, how do you even put those 4 wrestlers in 2 different tag teams? What storyline I would remember if it was anything to remember? Hey, you're
Rico, you're Rico Ishii.
Hey, you don't look alike and you don't look alike. You're going to be a team.
There's more.
I don't know if these are suppressed memories. I don't think this is where what we're going to talk about later. It's literally forgettable. Even as somebody who's in the locker room seeing it happen and seeing them maybe go over the finish or do something down the ring still wasn't worth remembering. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah. I'm trying to think. There's Billy Chuck again. Edge and Hollywood Hulk Hogan, which I do remember and remember thinking that was really odd. The Un-Americans, which makes sense because they actually were a team. Hurricane, how could we forget? Kane and the Hurricane. Christian and Chris Jericho, which they were teaming. Booker T and Goldust, which they were teaming the Un-Americans, or Regal and Lance Storm, I guess. And then by 2003, the Dudley Boys were back. So there you go. Chief Morley and Lance Storm. Kane and Rob Van Dam were tag team champions. And then we get to where it makes more sense, where it's La Resistance, Dudley Boys, Evolution, Booker T and Rob Van Dam. I don't remember them as a tag team.
Yeah, I think they were a tag team for a bit. I remember Kane and Rob being a team also tied into the storyline of Kane finally unmasking and becoming a heel.
Yeah.
When he lost that match.
Chris Benoit and Edge. I could go through them all, but I remember that. This is more of a thing of like how the tag team titles were treated less than they should have been, I guess. Anything else to mention of what you thought by 2004 and where the company was going wrong?
Yeah, it just still amazes me now that we go down the list of all the people on the roster that it was, even though it had an identity of the ruthless aggression era, which right now we don't know what the identity of WWE is besides sponsors, advertisers, ticket prices, bottom line bean counter. It could be the bean counter era, but ruthless aggression, it just seemed like you had all the tools to make it more memorable than even the Attitude Era, and it was forgettable.
Yeah, it seemed like artificially withdrawing what it could have been with the roster split. And, you know, I think we said before, you know, when WWE did it for like from, I don't know if it was 2016 to 2022 or something, I don't know. When they didn't bother with the roster split anymore. And they're sort of half not bothering with it now, which is a good way of dealing with it, I think. But still, I've never got it.
I don't think it's a great way of dealing with it because you know what you also do? We don't have any draft, we don't have any shows or theme shows, and we can't pull out the Legends for the 4th time this year. We have no anniversary show for WWE RAW or SmackDown, so let's have a draft. Mm-hmm. Wild card. That's when the draft just comes up, and they're so crazy, they won't do the draft anywhere near the NFL draft. When the SEO and the hashtags and you literally can piggyback on the NFL and then people get it. Oh, when the NFL draft happens, we'll get a WWE draft. But they don't do it. They just pull it out of their butt whenever they don't have anything. Do you feel that way when you see it? Like there's no rhyme or reason.
Yeah, but the thing is, keep in mind in like, you know, the Attitude Era and that kind of thing. I mean, how many drafts, how many anniversary episodes, how many Legends did they bring? None.
How many season premieres?
None.
Like they do season premieres now too, the past couple of years.
Oh, since at least 2019 because of Fox.
Yeah, but why? You run every single week. There's no season premiere.
Right, let's get to the show itself then. I mean, we're only delaying the inevitable here, but before we get to match 3, we're going to go to match 1. Chris Benoit and William Regal versus Batista and Ric Flair. The one note I made of this is there's an awful lot of holding the tag ropes. I noticed that straight away.
Yeah, I did too. And I also noticed that, man, like, I remember wrestling Benoit, but I felt bad for Batista and Flair because he is a handful to like, you can see, and even the chops, like Flair's chops are always good at making noise. They're always there. And Flair has an internal clock that he's doing something, but he's setting you up and taking his time. Benoit was so, I don't know if he was nervous. He was so rushed, and his chops hardly ever, except for like 2 or 3, made a sound. Did you notice that with the exchange with Flair?
But Benoit always
Flair's
feels
chops
rushed,
look
though. Benoit always feels rushed. I don't think he's ever, like, taken the time to smell the roses and, milk the crowd or anything.
Yeah, but I mean, even taking time to set up to get the guy in position and do what he needs to do, not methodically, but purposely with intention. And Flair did that. I think Flair's stuff looked more impactful than Benoit. And then you can see the inexperience of Batista because a lot of times he would just close the distance on Benoit when Benoit was trying to fight. Did you notice that? And it's just really, really weird. But then you get Regal in there. I got to point this out, besides tag ropes. The thing I noticed about Regal, and we're going to dedicate time, maybe multiple times, to showing an appreciation for William Regal. When Flair chop blocked him from behind, which looked really, really good, and Regal sold it like kind of let a twist and then down to his knee. How many guys ever they may grab their knee, but Regal for a few seconds is like grabbing the knee of the shin and then kind of turning his foot and ankle. He's like, did I roll my ankle? Did I do, like, you're looking at it and paying attention and saying, okay, where did Flair catch him? And that's the stuff I appreciate. And if you can just with one little thing besides stuff we'll watch with Fit Finlay, obviously, and then there's chain wrestling with Benoit as well. That's what Regal did best. Not just the grimace in the face, but the little things of like how you would really get, like when you blew your ACL out, you're not doing it in a pro wrestling cell. You're doing it like, what happened? Oh my God. You know what I mean? Not the big screaming and crying or anything like that. You might have cried. I'd cry if I tear my ACL. But Regal definitely, just the nuance and the detail. Those are the 2 words I would attach to Regal way more than anybody else.
William Regal's selling is of somebody who's actually been in fights. And you can always tell the difference between someone who's trained in pro wrestling and someone who has actually fighting experience. And for people who don't know, William Regal, as a teenager, was wrestling all comers in Blackpool, as the old story goes, Blackpool Pleasure Beach, or around about that way. So, I mean, he has real world, and especially with the World of Sport style. I mean, everyone did it. And it just seems like such a lost... when certain people watch World of Sport, we're talking about Ring of Honor again, once again bringing up the Patreon. So many of those guys you can tell have, gone back, looked at some of the footage and cribbed the moves. But they don't get the music between the notes kind of thing, which William Regal does. And he's a great example of somebody who does the tiny little things that might wash over you 99 times, but the 100th time you'll appreciate it.
Well, you know what, that those things also wash, or they go over the head of the office half the time, because it's always mystified me that even though he's had a run as the Intercontinental Champion, Tag Champ, all different titles, why he never broke into the upper main event consistently. It just mystifies me as well, because you have an appreciation for that, but is the translation to the casual fan kind of lost? Like, they know it looks cool and they know there's no wasted movement, and it's not just laying there and kind of dying in the ring instead of selling. But can they, because think about it, Regal stuff, nuance and detail, little stuff, grabbing things that we're going to talk about and appreciate. But then you have The Rock with the people's elbow, Scotty 2 Hotty with the worm, all these large in life, over the top, almost downright silly type of presentations that somehow get a bigger reaction than William Regal. Do you know what I'm saying?
But, hey, they worked really hard to get those moves over, though. So, I mean, there's no... Mr. Socko.
Yeah, I mean, a guy who fell off the top of the cage and got powerbombed on the floor by Vader. Here's a sock. The biggest merch seller ever after that.
Now, we wanted to really pay tribute to William Regal specifically in this segment. So Stevie went out and found a couple of his favourite matches that William Regal had. One was on a bit of a sleeper hit from SmackDown as well. So Stevie has found a couple of bits from a couple of matches of William Regal to really highlight just almost like how far advanced William Regal was and still is as far as the technical aspects and just understanding pro wrestling better than nearly anybody else out there, I'd say.
All right, thank you, James, and thank you to William Regal for further delaying us talking about the Mystery Woman match at Unforgiven 2004. But this is definitely a pleasure to watch William Regal work. I've been in the ring with him a couple times, and you want to talk about somebody that just makes you feel at ease, and you literally can just stand there, and he'll work around you and everything. You'll see that in a second. Lockup here between he and Benoit, very, very tight. And this is basically a chain wrestling clinic here between Regal and Benoit. And then we're going to watch another match with probably the most famous rivalry, or one of the most, in my opinion, Fit Finlay versus William Regal from WCW in that parking lot match. We should do a watch along on that, James. That was violent. And then all the other matches they've had, anywhere from WCW Saturday Night. I think they had a match on Nitro, a couple of pay-per-view matches. Definitely great stuff. We need to give Fit Finlay his flowers in a dedicated segment as well. So here we go here, lockup. Now, I want to show you this real quick right here. Now, you notice on the lockup, Benoit's taking the arm. But look at what Regal's doing. He's not giving it to him. Regal is still trying to figure out if he has a point to grab the trap. And for some reason, maybe you can speak on this, James. He and Fit Finlay do that trap hold or that trap grab more than anybody. Is that a World of Sport thing or a European thing?
Let's see it.
To grab the trapezius?
All the way through.
Okay. Lock up. Benoit takes the arm, but see how Regal is at least trying to grab that trap.
That's something I've never noticed.
So even though Benoit's got the arm, Regal is still trying to, like Fit does, where he grabs your traps and pushes it. He's still trying to get leverage. So even on the defense, Regal is kind of on the offense. That's what I mean. It's this much, but you really got to watch it. Also, look at this. He closes the distance and puts his chest against Benoit's back. So this way, and even, I'm going to go one step further, because every independent wrestler, and even ones on TV, make this mistake. Where is Regal's head? Because you have Benoit with his arm here. His head is away from where the elbow might catch him. It's kind of that thing where you hit the elbow behind him. You always want to kind of protect yourself. And then if Regal wants to give him the elbow, he brings his face up and takes it to where he takes it in the side of the jaw. So I'm going to keep going here. All right. So here, it's just a little thing. The twist doesn't have to be over the top with the arm. Regal is conveying the sell, not only with his face, which you can't see, but that leg. It's like he's almost trying to take him over, so he's almost off balance, and then he catches his balance. Just for that second, Regal, when he wrenches it, that leg comes up almost like I may fall, I catch my balance, and here we go back up. Another thing Regal taught me personally about this, he's not all the way in right now. Whenever somebody's got you in an arm bar or anything like that, or even a wrist lock arm bar, bend the elbow, grab the back of the head, or grab the trap and close the distance. Because you don't want them locking your joint out. So you see how the elbow's slightly bent here? And here he goes, rolling through. We're going to stop every 2 seconds. Instead of just giving it to him, like Benoit's not going to give it to him as far as like, I'm just going to grab my wrist or your wrist and I'm going to twist it. Regal breaks it by striking down on Benoit. Watch it in slow motion. See? Just kind of punches him in the hand to kind of loosen it. And there we go. And in a real fashion right there, a real sense, when Regal says, I can't close the distance because he's too dangerous right now, I'm just going to back it up and try to see what I can do here.
Regal's way of moving, and I know it's on purpose, but he always moves like an old man when he's wrestling. He's always, somewhat on his tiptoes, shuffling. He's always got his knees bent, that kind of thing.
For all we know, he could just be carrying pain from the carnival fight days and he's always sore and pain or whatever and just fighting through it. Or it just shows you I'm a veteran wrestler. I know what I'm doing. The thing I like about Regal, I just laughed because it just made me think of the old Warzone game.
Yeah.
Doing this.
Yeah.
Not that you can't see it, but I'm doing the thing where, yeah, exactly. So no wasted movement. That's what I mean. We keep stopping every 5 seconds, and I'm sorry, but stuff is happening every 5 seconds that everybody needs to pay attention to. All right, even that. I think he's going to give him an uppercut, but this arm right here has control, spin him around, and maybe give him a strike right there. So in other words, Benoit isn't feeding. William Regal is positioning him to take what he wants him to take. He called a quick spot there. Did you see that?
Do it in real time again.
Watch this. Boom. Little pursed lips and just said probably take something or whatever. Regal is still not letting Benoit take him down, not letting him do something. He has wrist control right here with that right hand, but look at the forearm to forearm. No space. That's like with a hammerlock. You don't want any space. You want the forearm against the forearm. That way you can reverse it and do all that. But they are working. Look at this. Not giving it to him right away. And watch his feet right here. As he twists, I think he's going to kick that foot here and be facing alongside Benoit. If Benoit lets him. There you go. It's literally not your arm moving, your hips and legs underneath are where we're moving. See what I mean? That creates the leverage. Now, Benoit right here should close the distance and make that elbow go up. We'll see if he does. He did. You see what I mean? You don't see it, but there, real quick. You would never leave your elbow straight. You know why? There's a few reasons. If you're in a ring with somebody inexperienced, obviously you don't want to do it because it hurts. If you're in the ring with someone inexperienced, I guarantee you 99 times out of 100, what do you think they're going to do when your arm's straight? Drop an elbow. Right on the elbow joint, hyperextend your elbow. So you're actually protecting yourself. Now, this isn't going to happen here, but why not keep those habits going? Are you a fan of the top wrist lock? I am always a fan of people that can do the top wrist lock correctly and keep it nice and tight. I'm not a fan of I've been like I've had a 50% success rate doing it. I never know why I did it right or wrong sometimes until afterwards.
I think for Benoit it's easier because he's got one, thick arms, and two, he's got short arms. So there's, less sort of space between the arms, I guess, and body.
That's a good point. All right, once again, it might not mean anything. Regal is behind Benoit, hammerlock. But when Regal wants to turn him and face him towards him, he grabs the shoulder of the trap and spins him himself. Watch. Regal's what Regal is Regal is almost, if you look at it in a shoot sense, there's a lot of rotation. There's a lot of spinning the opponent. There's almost a disorientation factor that he employs as like even a work sense in a pro wrestling match, that he's always like putting you back on your heels, so to say, where you're never quite balanced. It's never just one plane faced. It's never this. You're always twisting around. He's just chain wrestling. And this is 2 minutes of some of the best chain wrestling you'll see. All right, 51 seconds into this. One bump off an arm drag and kept the arm. So he never lets go. Then you got this right here. That's awesome. That's awesome. One count, taking it another stage, put the knee right there on the chest and the chin, and also kind of trying to look like he's covering his mouth so he's taking breaths away as he does that. Am I assuming that, actually that's a double thing. I'm sorry about that. But basically we showed about 55 seconds of wrestling, and we could break it down for an hour about everything that went right with what Regal did. Also Benoit, right there with Regal chain wrestling, but Regal staying on the feet, two guys trying to chain wrestle until one bump happened. Then what does Regal do? The first thing he does is this, tries to win the match. The first opportunity where Benoit is on his back, he's going to try to keep him on his back. It's perfect, dude. It's just perfect.
You picked up on something that I would say is a pet peeve of mine in wrestling. Because you were doing the arm ringers, or talking about the arm ringers. And I hate it when people do an arm ringer, one, when they don't grab the wrist. Sorry, when they grab the wrist instead of the back of the hand. And two, when they get it by the wrist and then they turn it round once and then they go, one more time, and then they turn it round again. It's like, I didn't know your opponent was quadruple jointed. That one always got me.
Yeah, but they don't do that. They don't do that in this.
No, exactly.
There's really just barely a twist, if anything. They're just trying to do leverage on the wrist to jam up the joint. But yeah, there's lots of people that twist arms 3, 4, 5 times, and I'm just like, take the front bump already. Like Regal almost took the front bump. That's why he kicked that leg up, because it took him off balance to where he might have went down or bumped forward. So you want to talk about you could learn how to wrestle just off that 51 seconds that I showed. You'll have a clue because you have to learn how to chain wrestle. So the next one's going to be the Fit Finlay match. That's just definitely something where I have a great appreciation from both these guys. And you can see two guys that kind of walk around kind of like they're old veterans. So you can see they both, and you want to talk about two guys that have been in a bunch of real fights. There you go. Dave actually, I have a picture from, I think, Australia or India, where Dave was well known, Fit Finlay, that guys in bars would test him, but overseas, I think mostly overseas, saying that wrestling's fake or whatever, and somehow it come into a point or arrive at a point where Fit Finlay would break their thumbs. Like, hey, just to, give me your thumb. And they go, oh yeah, give me my thumb. And they break it. He was known for that. I don't know if it's urban legend, but there's literally we're on a tour bus and I'm on my knees and he's got my thumb making the Fit Finlay face and I'm screaming and we took a picture.
Did he do it this way? So, you do like that handshaking thing, but you get the thumb like that and then you crunch in.
No, I think he just said, give me your thumb. And stupidly, they would give him the thumb. Yeah, I'll show you how fake it is. Give me your thumb. And he'd break their thumb. I'm going to text him and ask him if that, he told me the story. We took the picture. So I'm not imagining, unless it's Mandela effect, a different multiverse or whatever it is. So here we go. Now, when you look at these two, I'm just going to say right here, when you look at these two guys about to face off, you're like, these are literally not your pretty boy pro wrestlers or anything like that. These guys are going to give you a fight. Just from them circling the ring, you can tell they know every square centimeter or millimeter of this ring. There's no surprise. I know how to use this, even fit with the apron. Making you slide into the apron and start wailing on you as you're trapped in the apron skirt, using the ring to his advantage. Even one of Fitz, oh man, I never took it, but that thing where you're laying face down on the edge of the apron and he would do the hot shot onto the corner of the apron. You remember that? There. See what I mean? Watch this. Grabs the trap, and Fitz thing is awesome too. Slow-mo, lock up, shoot up. Even to shoot up into the waist lock, you always have to shoot on the tricep here. Throw that arm up. So, because some people think, oh, well, they're going to get the arm out of the way. I'm going to duck. Boom, broken nose. Throw that arm up and get behind to clear it. But I'm going to show you right now. This is where Regal gets it as well. Trap. Then it's going to be followed with foot on the back of the knee. Double trap. That's a Fit Finlay special. But for some reason, that nerve hold or trap, trap grab or whatever, really good stuff. And look at Regal sell. That's perfection. Oh, look at this. That's what I mean. Like what Fit does versus what Regal does is similar, but totally different. Regal is more of a finesse chain wrestler, but he's still very edgy and gritty, and he can fight. Fit Finlay is just a guy that's going to maul you. This is the picture of Fit Finlay's style right here. He's just going to maul and torture you. And they knew this because every time Regal and Finlay wrestled, I think Finlay would get like 90% of the match and Regal would be selling until he would just kind of fight back. They understood their place within the match. Oh, that elbow is awesome. Everything. Like, Regal's not necessarily giving it to him. Like, here's the elbow. About as perfect. You got to watch. Regal gave it to him, but most guys will miss the hand thing. But Finlay sees it. The other one. And going for the cover. Kick out on one. I mean, it's just. Finlay's going to start moving towards him, and Regal's selling. Trying to figure out. And his hands. Regal just told you, I got an elbow to my face and both my fingers got stomped on. Don't forget that. I'm still selling it. Really great stuff. Did you notice that?
Just the wiggling.
I know Fit enough to know there was something said, or Regal would be like, got me, brother, or something. And Finlay was smirking and laughing about it. Like, yeah, I did stomp on your fingers for real. Or I caught you. Because friends kill each other in wrestling, in case you didn't know.
There's one thing that, this is even before the match. Willie Regal always wiped his feet before getting in. I think that's something that's really missing. I like that.
It's a
like a
respect
dojo
thing for the ring. It's a sacred, it's exactly what it is. It's a sacred place. You need to clean it off. The ring needs to be, also, you don't know what you're walking on down to the ring. It could be just something that's going to be sharp or something, and you run and it stays in the apron, someone bumps on it. So it's to keep the ring clean, but it's a form of reverence and respect for the squared circle of the professional wrestling ring. But yeah, dojo too, or any place where you train. Now, did you notice something about the Dave's kick? Watching the slow-mo. Punt kick. You know, most people kick with the flat of their boot, but he gave a karate front kick, which looks more devastating. Nice uppercut.
In a sense, is it safer as well to do that kind of kick? Because you can, you know, if you don't like curl your toes up enough, you can really dig it into somebody's, you know, ribs or something.
No, because he kicked him at a point almost to the solar plexus or start. The point of the boot hurts, but I trust him to do that. Did you notice too back then? Just a little bit. Nobody's really bumping, but they're using the ropes to bounce back and do certain things. Watch. And Regal, even Fit, he's about to go down. Watch when he takes form. Grabs his head to stop himself from bumping and then comes back right there. And Regal can just sell. He's still stopping. It's got to be a rip between friends. He's just stomping the hell out of his fingers. But when you do that, you want somebody to grab you for that. Stomp the other one. And by the way, this is SmackDown. This is TV. And they got pay-per-view level work right here from these guys. Oh, that was cool. Did you notice that? Sunset flip. Bridge up. To try to get the leverage to pull him over. I've never seen that before or since. Of course, Fit's gonna. And that's, dude. Mostly guys would punch. They would do something fancy. They would do a bigger bump. Fit just grabbed him by the hair. Said, I'll yank you by your hair, makes him let go. And then he just, goes to work on it. There goes Regal selling again. Are you noticing that Regal is giving a lot to Finlay because he knows he can sell his stuff?
Well, I mean, Regal's better at it as well. But
real.
Hey, I tell you what, if you've ever heard Regal talk about Fit Finlay, the amount of respect that dude has for Dave, is unparalleled. I'm going to repeat a story that he said many, many years ago. He said the first time he was so intimidated when he was 18 or whatever it was, when he first wrestled Dave Finlay, that he didn't want to take anything. And he said eventually Fit, just because he was had such a reputation as a tough guy, Fit leaned in after 10 minutes of beating him up or whatever and went, "Do you not make comebacks, you?" And Regal went, "Oh yeah, of course I do." And then he started doing his own thing, but he was so intimidated that he forgot to wrestle him back, basically.
Do you think there's still a little bit of that in this match?
There's got to be. Because, Fit is 10 years his senior. I don't know. I don't know when Dave started, but he's also third generation.
Yeah. Yeah. And I want to say this. Fit is such a kind-hearted, gentle man that also is just humble. And most real fighters that can go are never going to tell you about how tough they are every single day of the week. Just a clue. These two guys never talk about, they do the opposite. They almost are self-deprecating sometimes. But I'm telling you right now, even being around Dave and working with Dave, with the girls and doing all the stuff that we did over the years, I was still intimidated by him. And I'm talking about breaking thumbs and laughing and giggling like a schoolgirl. That intimidated, I can't even say it. It intimidated me even more. So,
hey, just so you know as well, I don't know how many people realize this, but they're not the same generation. Fit Finlay started 9 years earlier.
I thought they were.
Fit Finlay started nearly a decade earlier. They are not the same generation.
Then it makes sense. But I always thought Regal, you hear Regal and Finlay and Dave Taylor, and you assume they're all the same. I think Dave Taylor was older than Regal too, right?
I figure so. I know you retired a lot earlier.
But I just mean from Fitz generation, not William Regal.
Somewhere in between. Fit Finlay started in 74. Dave Taylor started in 77. Regal started in 83. So
it's still about Dave's in the middle, but he's closer to where Finlay is than Regal. So I can watch this forever. I tried to pick a short one because I knew. Look at the headlock. Now Regal's right away trying to go for the eyes and trying to do whatever. The next thing that's going to happen is I think Finlay's going to wrench it, or he's going to get out of it. Now grabbing the ear. That's a great piece of camera work. They don't do that anymore. He did a close-up of him grabbing the ear. Such a great hold here.
Why is that? Why do they not do that anymore? Is it because they're worried they're going to catch someone speaking, or are they worried they're going to...
Probably. Yeah, I haven't seen too many. I have not seen... No pun, maybe a pun intended. I have only seen a handful of times. Where they have done that. But that brings you into that Regal is not just taking a rest hold. He's got a hold of Finlay as Finlay has a hold of him. So even on the defense, Regal is trying to get on the offense. Oh, that'll do it. Now, a little thing that happened there, watch this. Now, Regal, he clears the right arm. He throws it down before he ends up cross-facing him. Watch. Just to get it out of the way, to make sure he can't block it. But also not to get him hit with his arm.
Yeah, I was going to say, go back to the forearm once again. Finlay's basically hitting his own arm, isn't he? Yeah, but it looked great.
Sometimes. Depends on who it is.
Yeah.
It's close. I would say if you just get your nose grazed, it's like grazing the other area being a dude, you're going to still tear up a little bit. You know what I mean? As far as getting popped on your nose. But it's just so, dude, they've only taken like one bump, maybe two. It's just crazy. Now see what Regal's doing here. If you notice, he went from being on his butt, turning in, throwing this leg forward for the lunge. He's curling the toe back here. He's taking it in levels to try to get back to his feet, taking his time. And Finlay could take him back over again and start it all over, but they may run the ropes for the first time here, but possibly not.
Do you know what
that's Scott Armstrong, by the way.
The World of Sport wrestlers are so much better at than American wrestlers just because of the style they work, because of the round system, is being able to restart a match and make it entertaining. Whereas with American-style wrestlers, it always starts off slow and then it builds to a crescendo. Whereas World of Sport, you can do something and then just completely reset it. And it never loses, the match never loses its luster.
Yeah, essentially you can get 3 unique matches if it goes all 3 rounds. Is that what you're saying?
It depends on the rounds. There's usually 4
cool.
or 6, or it can be even 10 sometimes. Rounds with just whatever they wanted.
Or you just tell a story. Or you just tell a story and you go, okay, round 1, 2, say you have 6, rounds 1 and 2. We're going to do what they're doing right now and try to jockey for position, chain wrestle. Round 3, we're going to start the heat. Round 3 to 4, even with the rest period, you're going to try to continue. Then rounds 5 and 6 are the comeback and go home with maybe some false finishes.
Why they were so great is because you had the micro story of every round, you had the macro story of the match itself, and then you had mini stories in between that overarched, like if someone was on their last warning as far as being being disqualified or yellow carded or whatever, and then then will they be caught cheating another time? That's part of the macro story, I guess. But I love World of Sport style.
I wish that those kinds of consequences would come back and those guardrails to make the workers and creative do a much better job. They're way too lazy with DQs and cheating and pop-ups. NXT is the worst at that with the pop-up and, I didn't do anything. It's so stupid. They could learn a million things from these guys. Everything Dave does and Regal means something. Oh, here we go. Hot shot. He took his time, but it wasn't like too long. You know what I mean? He's setting it up. He didn't do, oh, brother, look at here and do the thing, but he was setting up and giving him a second to put his hands there to push up and take the chest on there. This is usually what fit up. Oh, nice kick. That's the story with Regal and Finlay. Finlay will just keep beating up Regal and beating him up and beating him up until Regal says, I've had enough. I don't care. I'm just going to, it's almost like now you can see it's breaking down into sort of like more of a fight between both of them. Oh.
Did you notice that he didn't jump, Finlay? He sort of walked into it, which made it seem... Because I've got to say right now, I'm not a fan of the catapult. It nearly always looks stupid. That didn't look stupid.
Even the Shawn Taker one from Hell in a Cell,
was amazing.
That was probably the best one.
But do you know what? When people do the catapult, so few of them, when they...
And he gigged on the way back.
Yeah.
He really went for it.
When people do the catapult, what so few people do is bring their knees up by... when they're both horizontal, like the giver doesn't bring their knees up, so basically the taker can post up off their knees and then fling themselves forward. Like, so few people actually do it properly.
It's an incredibly hard move to do if you're trying to catapult into the corner of the cage, because you literally have to stiffen your body up like Shawn did with Taker at Hell in a Cell. He stiffened his body and literally Taker just fell back. Shawn was on his feet like a board and then jumped up. If you're too loose with that, you're just going to kind of fall over. So what Fit did was smart. Now Regal's really going to work his arm. Ooh. Those knees are tough, man. Even if you're getting hit with the quadricep, you're still getting jacked in the ear and the jaw. Very good stuff. We can go on for hours and days about this. This is the first time they're whipping each other into the rope. That's the first whip off the ropes. And here we go, right back into a hold. I don't even know what the finish is. I'm just going to skip ahead. Oh, wait.
It's a little bastard, as he was known at the time.
A little bit. Oh! Pulls the tights. I got to say, these guys are awesome, man. They really are. That was enjoyable. That was a good, I wish we started off with the bad news of Unforgiven before watching that.
Yeah, well, I had a feeling at some point you were dragging that out just because you don't want to talk about the next segment.
Yeah, we got to watch it again. Let's watch the match again. Oh, dude, it was funny, and Hornswoggle in the end was fine about it. But there's this time at the monitor where I was sitting with Sylvain and La Resistance and a bunch of other guys watching some stuff, and Hornswoggle walked by, and Sylvain would say things to him, not always bad, but some reason they would go at each other and make fun of each other. It was kind of friendly. It didn't seem friendly that day. Maybe it was getting a little too whatever. But he goes, Dylan, hey, Dylan, how did you get here tonight? Did you ride in a minivan? And I was just like this, like, it's not funny, Stevie. Shut the F up. And he would make the Pat Patterson jokes back to Sylvan. So there,
of course.
There we go.
So, I know basically none of that was about Unforgiven 2004, but it was far more interesting. Benoit wins with a crossface on Ric Flair. Now, segment backstage, Trish Stratus, Tyson Tomko. Trish promises to suck Tomko off, I guess. I mean, that's pretty much what they intimated. Or something if he accompanies her to the ring. So therefore, it's Trish Stratus, the women's champion, with Tyson Tomko versus Victoria as the challenger. Now, we're not going to spend too much time on this because obviously we've got to get to the main event. Get it out of the way eventually. Victoria comes out and she's got her new music, I Ain't the Lady to Mess With. And it's like, man, what a downgrade from Tattoo. I used to love that song that no one can listen to anymore because they've got to edit it out.
Yeah, I have no idea, no earthly idea other than the Tattoo want more money to license the music. They have that music, and then sometimes they have that generic do music when she comes out that everybody, we can't figure it out. Give them that music. Give them the template music.
Why is Victoria now babyface, yet she's still associated with you? Was there ever really an official breakup between you two?
Never an official breakup. It was just something that right around the time of WrestleMania 20, when that was the one where Molly Holly had her head shaved, and poor girl, she's having her head shaved on the stage. The next match is coming out, so they glossed over that entire thing with that. But she started to turn babyface there, and then I was doing Stevie Night Heat and kind of turning heel because we weren't together. Nobody explained it. Just said, you're not going out to the ring with it anymore. You're doing your own thing. So I took it upon myself, probably got heat for it, of just acting like I wasn't quite right. It's like anybody after a breakup. You're not yourself. You're depressed. You don't even want to get in the ring and do you. And I did some stories with like Lance Cade, Rico, other people where you can see me visibly coming apart mentally and emotionally. You know what I mean? Like anybody post breakup. But it was just like nobody cared. It was just me doing it for my own creative fulfillment to say, I'll try to make it make sense. And then Coach and Al on commentary were doing a great job covering it too. But there was no explanation. It was a good act too. I don't know why they all of a sudden took left and right turns and a fork in the road and we went opposite ways.
Yeah, so Victoria was the babyface already by WrestleMania 20 then, if she was shaving Molly Holly's head. Or am I misremembering?
Yeah, that's when all that stuff started happening. I was trying to tell the story on Heat that she wasn't with me anymore because she came out every week on Heat with me too, and I came out wherever she wrestled on Heat or Raw, and it just stops.
So you never got an answer to that? I wonder if Victoria
Never. Did Victoria? No, not as far as I know.
Okay. Do you remember what
what did we do? What did we do? That's the real question.
I'm trying to think if... so when did Victoria start getting cheered then? Do you remember a specific thing?
Well, I can't even remember, but there had to have been some build-up to WrestleMania 20 with Molly Holly. So she was probably getting cheered like anywhere from January to April for that match to happen. We got cheered anyway. I mean, she got more cheered than I did, but the act got cheered because of the music, the presentation. We were kind of over the top, characters. So, yeah.
I know it sounds stupid, but I really like that hand thing, it wasn't like on the, I mean, it was on the Titantron, but also, the mini-tron in the entrance, with the eye in the middle, like David Blaine, I guess. But, yeah, that's a very niche reference. I'm sorry, Stevie, but trust me, it did
I know David Blaine, and I met Chris Angel with the meat hook thing at WWF New York, and I was terrified.
Oh, you told me that, yeah.
Yeah. He's like, you want to come see my act? I walked. I saw it the first time. I was, I'm out of here. Bye. Get some free steak.
Very briefly, we're going to talk about the match, I guess, as well. Trish Stratus is now working a slut gimmick, which she was amazing in that when she turned bad WrestleMania 20, I think, against Chris Jericho and Christian. And then, obviously, every woman would be a slut for, I don't know, something like 20 years around this time, especially in TNA. or work that character. Anyway, a couple of bits from the match. I wanted to make mention that Victoria hits very impressive military press to a gutbuster, which is the kind of thing that like Dean Malenko would do, I think, in the cruiserweight division some years ago.
Yeah, Dean did it. Dean did the fireman's carry into the knee buster, or the gut buster. But this is probably a Fit Finlay thing. Fit is still working predominantly with the women, and that's why the work shows and shines through. And if you don't believe me, watch the Fit Finlay stuff. You can see the girls kind of really emulating a lot of stuff between him and Regal and all that kind of chain wrestling and intense wrestling as well.
There's one more thing I wanted to make mention of is that Victoria also takes a really big spill off the ring apron just before the finish of the match as well. Was she always someone who would happily take the big bumps? Because the way from her interviews, it strikes me that she was basically willing to do anything to make it and prove that, she wasn't just another pretty face, I guess. Yeah,
she always famously took the one where she would kind of sit on her butt through the bottom and middle rope and then take a back bump to the floor, catch her feet sometimes. But also, I think what's impressive too is her, better than the one I did at the Jay Lethal Proving Grounds match, her dive on the Tomko right before the finish.
With that being said, there was a bit of a distraction. Victoria, by Tyson Tomko. Oh my God,
I can feel. I hate to interrupt. I can feel the nausea and the migraine because I know what's next.
Yes, Mystery Woman runs in. Hang on, I've written that. Yeah, Mystery Woman runs in and then DDT's Tyson, and you're holding your head, and I've written here like you've got a migraine.
Like the one I got now?
Yeah.
I did. It's somebody, I swear, if I can remember correctly, someone told me to do that. And I think that someone, whichever computer brain it was Vince McMahon.
What was the theory?
Oh, you know what? Here's the theory. Vince did tell me and other people, because Victoria did this. Victoria used to do that with the Psycho gimmick.
You run to the back, you're holding your head, trying to keep your wig on. Well, the Mystery Woman's trying to keep the hair on, I guess. And then you go to the back, and then Tyson Tomko cuts a promo, would you believe, and says, "You either come out here now, or I will deal with you in the back, you cross-dressing hermaphrodite," which leads us to an impromptu, in quotation marks, match between Tyson Tomko versus Mystery Woman, which was also a runaway hit. The worst match of 2004, according to the Wrestling Observer. And you are up against some heavy hitters. I'll ignore the Japanese ones because I just don't know. Undertaker versus John Heidenreich. Carmella versus Christy Hemme, Undertaker versus JBL, Brock Lesnar versus Goldberg at Madison Square Garden. I remember that one. The Undertaker versus the Dudleys, the handicap match. It wasn't that bad. It was just not a main event. 2004, and then Paul Bearer gets encased in concrete.
I do remember that. And then Bob Holly versus Mordecai, and Chavo versus Jacqueline. I don't have any recollection of these. I'm going to tell you what, the people in Portland, Oregon that night, they got a bonus that they never asked for, never wanted, and didn't deserve to have to suffer through. That's all I can say about it. Yeah, but at least I won some award in my career.
Yeah, well, you're a multi-time hardcore champion, stuff in WWF as well. There's other things, but yeah.
This erased all that.
Awful. Oh yeah, they got rid of that belt as soon as. Yeah. Anyway. Right, let's deal with the match itself. We'll deal with the character in a bit after we talk about the match. But if anyone has seen it, you will never forget it. If nothing else, because it goes... I know I said 6 minutes and 24 seconds before. What I meant was 6 hours and 24 minutes. It seemed like it went on for an eternity, Stevie. What was... I know for a fact it wasn't meant to go for that long. What was meant to happen?
Well, basically what was meant to happen was Tomko was going to beat me up and then hit me with that finish and leave me laying. Or, there was a finish off that torture rack neck breaker, but it was literally only supposed to be 2 minutes. And then keep going. No, you got more time. You got 4, you got 6, you got, I think they even said 8. That's why it kept sticking with me. They want us to get 8 minutes out of this. And it was doomed safety wise, I got injured in this match in a bunch of different ways, James.
What?
This match injured me, but we got to go back to when, not even the origin, but when I got to the building that day and I was not confronted, but approached by Vince McMahon and his circle of yes people.
Name them.
Probably all
name
men.
the yes people. Come on, name the yes people.
Oh, we're talking about all the agents, including Pat Patterson, and in a semicircle around me. So I'm like, what is going on here? So you want to talk about I'm not intimidated by any of these guys, but what are you trying to do? And Vince is very close to me talking about what he wants. Should I just go into it?
Oh, yeah.
Because it is relevant. So, it's weeks or months. I mean, it could be weeks. It feels like months I've been in this gimmick, and I'm persona non grata. I know I'm a pariah. I'm literally just trying to have an out-of-body experience during this time, not living the life as myself, but let's just get through this week. I'll go home, and hopefully they'll fire me or release me, or this will end. But I knew this at the time had all the makings and all the trappings of a career killer. My career wasn't going so great before this. I thought I would never work again after. So that was probably my motivation to not just say, I'm out. You guys aren't going to do this to me. Because I knew once it got started, who's going to hire me? Who's going to do anything with me? No matter what my resume was, my amount of knowledge, my attitude, my ability to put people over and get people over and bump and sell. This is far beyond. And this is a different time, 2004. When you're in that spot, you are pigeonholed and labeled, and it's completely over. And it's not done in a comedy sense, you know what I mean? This is supposed to be a serious angle, quote. So I go to the building that day, and they've told me already, this match is going to happen, and then you're going to have a match with Tomko. But we're not sure if it's going to happen. So it wasn't like set in stone. But I was given a heads up on the week before that you and Tomko are going to do something. I walk into the building. Vince is there, or I'm just saying hello to everybody, and Vince happens to see me, approaches, talks about, oh, you're gonna work Tomko tonight, and well, he said the mystery woman, not you, like I'm a different person. They're around me in that semicircle, and I'm looking around like, what, are you guys going to roll me or something? You're going to jump me? I don't know. I didn't say it, but I'm thinking, looking around. And then he goes, well, I want you to wear this. And he pulls granny panties out of his suit jacket. And I said, oh. I said, well, Vince, and he got annoyed because I said, I have a question. That was it. I had heat, right? I go, I have a question. Is it okay if I wear my gear under the dress? Because when you take the wig and the dress off, because I'm supposed to be unmasked, I have my gear on. It's me, Stevie Richards. I wear gear. And he goes, no, don't wear your gear. Wear these granny panties and nothing else. And if you noticed in the match, I wore underwear underneath it because they were flimsy and I would have been popping out all over the place. But he insisted, do not wear anything under these. But I did anyway. Also, I said, can I at least wear my boots? Because I don't want to be sliding around. He goes, no. He goes, you're going to wear pantyhose. I wore black socks. I wish I wore white socks just to pop Jim Ross.
Knee pads
all white
as well.
socks is back. All white socks is back.
I know. I thought that was such a disappointment. I was hoping you wear white socks. Well, you're also wearing your knee pads as well.
I got heat for that.
Uh-huh.
I wasn't allowed to wear my knee pads. This is after the fact. All the things I'm talking about, they were mad that and then even he goes, you got to go to Magic and get a bra. I was like, well, if I'm being undressed and unmasked, and he just kept looking, his face started getting red because I asked 3 questions now or made a suggestion. And he goes, after this happens, tomorrow, you're going to go into the whatever room for promos. You're going to have the wig, you're going to have the makeup, you're going to have a feathered boa, and you're going to announce to the entire world that you are a proud gay American. And I said, okay, but I'm not gay. And he said, you don't understand what I'm saying. You're going to announce that you're a proud gay American. And I said, okay. I go, but you have to understand, Vince, do you think wearing like a dress, a wig, a feathered boa, makeup, do you think the gay community is going to accept a person like that? He looked at me. He was so red in the face, and he goes, "You're a proud gay American." And he walked off. And all the yes men turned around and walked away with him. So that was the culmination. So the match being so terrible probably saved me further embarrassment, because I would have had to have announced to the world, dressed like Hulk Hogan, Hollywood Hogan, that I was a proud gay American. And every time I said, but I'm not gay, Vince, I don't know how am I supposed to represent? He was getting so mad. And then when I said that and he was gritting his teeth, he was so red in the face. This was Mr. McMahon, full promo mode. You know, this was the Undertaker promo. Yeah, I'm going to have Undertaker getting his wife raped by a motorcycle gang. Remember that one? And that terrorist bomb his house. That was on SmackDown.
No.
Yeah, that's not even Do-Rag Vince. That's before Do-Rag Vince, who was a menace.
I can believe that.
Well, now I want you. You're going to have a reaction channel coming up very soon. What's your reaction to all that and the rocket that was going to be strapped on my back as a proud gay American?
Right. Okay. Here's the thing. Pat Patterson was gay, right? What Vince is describing is that you're a transvestite, which is completely different. So I don't know why he's associating those two things together. They might go hand in hand to a point, but they're completely separate entities. 2, was he trying to kill your career stone dead? And 3, did he eventually just get so sick of you and then he eventually brought in Vito, Big Vito, and do the thing for him? But instead of the gay thing, it was just wearing a dress.
Well, there was the Vito thing, I believe, and I talked to Vito, so we might have another correction next week. The Vito thing, I think, was supposed to kind of be a rib because he was friends with Vince Russo. That's what Vince and Vito say, that it was a rib on Vito, but then Vito went the extra mile to try to make it work. And he wore that dress everywhere, dude. He legitimately did. Airports, gyms. And I worked out with Vito at the gym that time. He wasn't wearing it all the time in the gym, but he just had an attitude of, I'm just going to try to get it over. And it's pro wrestling. Sometimes the silliest stuff that you don't think is going to get Daisy Dukes in a half shirt. People now are willing to pay good money for a guy to wear Daisy Dukes in a half shirt at 53 years old. That's the weird world of wrestling. But yeah, I mean, I was already, what career are you going to kill? Like I hadn't even sniffed the mid card since 2001, 2002 at the most, if you don't even count the right to censor stuff. I was a fun little attraction in a whole band of misfits in the hardcore division. Then I was a male valet. So think about that. My career was already 3/4 of the way dead. So why would he want to kill it? I was doing a great job myself.
No, they were doing a great job for you. Let's not.
Yeah, they did. They did. You have to credit them with the assist on the scoreboard. You're right.
Right. Do you want to talk about, because really I've done this backwards and this is my fault. Should we have talked about the origins of the character or should we talk about the match?
I think talk about the match because the origins literally came out of nowhere.
Okay.
But right. I will give you another Vince McMahon thing that makes a lot of sense in 2025. Now, when I mentioned that he said that I'm literally trying to bring up suppressed memories that I purposely forgot. But my hand to God, that was the thing. Proud gay American, granny panties, bra, no boots, no knee pads, no underwear. That stuff will be ingrained in my mind till the day I'm gone. But it came out of nowhere. And I tried to figure out the timeline. My only sort of kind of guess would be when I went into the office after the Bob Holly match they showed in the talent meeting.
Yeah.
And I asked about like, why do I have to, in a way, why might you putting me in this match when you believe that I can carry the ball and score? And I need for you to give me I think it might, but that means he had that on the back burner for anybody. So when Edge went in and said, I want to win the world title, he still had, well, maybe dress, no belt, dress, belt. No, belt for him, dress for you. But it seemingly came out of nowhere, and it was featured to a point where even I was uncomfortable. Like, you sure you want to feature this every week almost on TV? You're ribbing yourself in a way, not me.
Well, you and themselves. It's scorched earth, isn't it? Basically, sounds like.
Pretty much. Last I checked, I never held up Vince for money before a WrestleMania main event. I've never ripped urinals out of the wall. I've never done $40,000 worth of damage to a hotel room. I've never called anybody a CG slut on TV live. The Diva search. Yeah. Something guzzling.
I see. I was really struggling on that one.
Stevie Richards show.
You never shat in anyone's bag? I mean, maybe you should have done.
No, that would have got the belt.
Look at this shit-covered belt I've just been given. Right, okay, let's get to the match itself. Then we're going to get more to the origins of the character, whatever it was. Anyway, right. Haunting silence. I've written. Okay, right. Here's something else. Like, straight away, commentators, Jim Ross, Jerry Lawler, and the mystery woman. And Jim Ross obviously knows it's you. Jerry Lawler obviously knows it's you. The entire crowd obviously know it's you. Because
they've been chanting my name for weeks.
They've been chanting your name
for weeks. The only time they chanted my name and it actually got over somehow.
Right. Okay. Was it actually at any point ever meant to be a mystery? Because what I'm getting is that the commentators were told to act like it was a mystery.
I don't know, because everybody was supposed to act like they didn't know it was me, and that was it. There was it wasn't like they went out of their way. And the only time I got any kind of direction from Vince McMahon, and once again, whichever brain it is, that dude was at the makeup chair way more when I was getting that stuff done. I would see him at the makeup chair almost every other week. And I'd be like, oh, Vince, you need the makeup chair, because I thought he had to get ready for something. You know, you give up your seat or do whatever. Oh, no, I just want to talk about what we're going to do today with your gimmick. Since the right to censor, he never took that much of an interest in anything that I've done. Scary.
Yeah, that is scary. So the match kicks off. Obviously, Tomko calls you out, and you were just out there, and you wander back out. You're not wearing boots for whatever reason. You're just wearing socks.
I told you already.
Yeah, no, I know. You slap Tomko. He punches your wig off. Luckily, you still have knee pads on for safety. No boots. This is just my notes going through. Jerry Lawler actually utters the phrase Mr. Winky. In a lot of ways, I miss the 2000s, and that's one of them.
That's funny. Hey, here's a fun fact. That wig was supposed to stay on, and I wasn't supposed to be revealed till the finish.
Oh, really? You should have got a chin strap or something.
There was no safety involved. They didn't want a chin strap. They didn't want knee pads, boots, anything, underwear.
Well, straight away you're stripped further. The big reveal gets no reaction because everyone knew it was you, including the commentators. And then Tomko slowly beats you over the course of Ice Ages, would it be? I mean, how long did it take for you to even get one strike back in? 4 minutes?
Something like that, yeah. I don't think I fought back to this day. I think it's still going on.
I think it might still be going on. Okay, right. So when are you told that this goes from 2 minutes to 6.5?
In the ring.
The referee says
as it's happening. That's all stretched out.
So who's giving you this? Is this someone on the floor telling you?
The
or is it the referee?
Referee's getting it from Gorilla or somebody. Dude, here you want to know how bad this was?
Please.
Stamford, Connecticut called the Gorilla position and said, "End this now, or else it would have went longer."
Who made that call?
I have no idea. Somebody at Stamford called. I have on authority from one of the agents that Stamford called to tell Vince McMahon and everybody, "End this now."
It could have been Linda. Who knows? So a small chance of "you suck" directed at nobody in particular breaks out at one point. A tiny there is a bit of a cheer for when you finally chop Tomko. Here's the thing. Who would cheer you in this role? Yet you are quite clearly the babyface.
That's a good point.
Tomko's quite clearly the heel. He's with Trish.
It's clearly, like you just said, It's clearly scorched earth, and they're scorching their own earth to some degree as well as my career. It's mutually assured destruction within this whole gimmick and match.
Commentator says, Lawler says, he's never been right, has he? And Ross replies, not since I've known him. Tomko calls you a sissy, then you grab onto his genitalia, testicles and penis, for those who want to know, for a comeback. Twice.
Yeah.
Tell me that was a Vince edict. The testicular
no, we're literally calling audibles. It's just me doing stuff. When I said son of a bitch, if you look, I'm kind of half looking at the back at Gorilla and then Tomko too. So that son of a bitch wasn't for him, it was for them because it just kept going. And I knew I had already rolled my ankle, and the one drop kick you see when I run back and I slip tore my meniscus. And also my hips were kind of misaligned for a while. I was hurting for weeks after that.
Is it just purely boots are that important? Basically,
yeah.
I guess
Well, I mean, unless you're barefoot, like wearing socks in the ring, you're going to slip. If you're barefoot, you got a better chance. And I even suggested that, and they go, no. And I'm telling you, once again, heat for no pantyhose, heat for underwear under the granny panties, heat for wearing knee pads. So you want to tell me, like, they had my safety and best interest in mind?
No, at one point, you stop your comeback to express concern over a pale blue bra that you were wearing. And some reason, I don't know why you go to it, pick it up like it's, like a dead dog. And then this leads to Tyson hitting you with that sort of reverse F5 net breaker kind of thing for the win. And
well, I'm going to tell you what I was going to do, and then he hit me. Okay. I just was like, I'll be distracted and hit me with the finish. That's literally, I was trying to figure a way, because that's when we got the end this now, like right before. That's why it suddenly just happened. It didn't seem to build. So I was like, I got to look for something. I didn't know if it was going to be the wig or the bra, whatever it was. I had a turn there. But in my mind, because I thought I'm fired after this anyway, I wanted to stand up, look at the bra, and look at the camera and go, please bleep this out, Chris, because I was going to go, I can't believe they did this to me. Or something like that. And then get caught.
Ah, dear. So finally, mercifully, you are pinned 6 minutes 24, as I said, or around that. You go to the back. Right, okay, just before you go to the back, is the silence in the audience palpable, deafening kind of thing?
Yeah. As a matter of fact, you know what? As I'm walking back, and I don't know if I went to Gorilla. I wanted to walk right out of the building. So I don't recall. It wasn't like where when I hit JBL with the chair, it was a ghost town in Gorilla. I don't know. I think I was just going to grab my bags and leave. And that may have been what I did. But I remember walking to the back. There must have been some smart fans or ECW fans or whatever. See, they were saying how sorry they were as I was walking by and patting me on the back. And they were like, and even a few people were like, why don't you just go to Japan or TNA or whatever? Get out of here. Like they understood. But they're the ones that Vince ripped off. And they left. And now everybody after that has to make up for such a terrible, terrible segment. Jericho and Christian, Hunter and Triple A, or Hunter and Randy Orton, anybody in between after that match now has to try to make people forget about what they just saw. So I'm sure the talent was pissed at me, but I'm not the one that was put out there to do that.
Absolutely not. Reaction in the back then. So you don't even remember the reaction once you got backstage or Gorilla, wherever it was.
I can tell you about the next day.
Okay.
Next day, where I get there early, as I always do. I get the catering, and purposely now I don't want to be seen because I know that's like whatever. And just backing up a little bit, during the course of doing the Mystery Woman, even the people I were tightest with felt like they were keeping me at arm's length, like I had the scarlet letter on me. And I'm including Glenn Jacobs and everybody else in that. That it just felt like they knew something I didn't. By not saying something, I knew they knew, but nobody would smarten me up. So that's fine. Wrestling friends, But the next day I got there, I ate my lunch early. And then for some reason, I was walking down the hallway. Tomko is sitting on one of the production boxes. And I walk down the hallway. He's there sitting to the left. Now, the hallway, which I think it's catering down there or something, or we were leaving catering. Down on the hallway was a turn, like probably about maybe 100 feet. So Tomka and I are talking. And I'm like, dude, what's the word about what's going on with this whole thing? And he's like, I don't know. He goes, I don't even know if I'm going to have a job after this. I go, dude, you're going to be fine. What are you talking about? I go, I'm the one that got pretty much mortified out there and embarrassed and everything. And we're talking, and dude, once again, hand to God. I look down, Vince is coming around the corner. Probably going towards catering. I think it's behind us. Vince sees me. He starts scowling. And then he goes, and I go, and turns right back around and goes around the corner. I'm like, what? And I can't even tell you how I had 4 years after that. This was September, and I got released August 15th, 2008. It's like a blur. And I probably thought every day since that time I was getting released. Then ECW started up, and I said every day from this point on I'm getting released. I can't, I've worked so hard, and even though we put it off for a few weeks, I've worked so hard to try to remember every detail, every incident, what the origin was, what happened afterwards, and how all this goofiness, and really, quite frankly, it just sick people doing these sick things over weeks and months, how it calmed down and I became a worker again. That they valued, that put me in spots to get guys over and do whatever. It's such a, I don't know, a bipolar type, existence in that environment.
We're going to probably backtrack a couple of months now,
How
which
many
I
times
should
do
have
you
actually
shake your head during these segments?
Yeah,
You're like,
so
"Oh,
you're just
okay."
like, I'm just like, what?
Exhausting, right?
It's exhausting just hearing about it and trying to make sense of it, let alone having to live through it, I'm sure.
I'm trying, everybody. I'm serious. Like I said, I'll repeat it once again. For the sake of the show, for the sake of the story, and to get everything right and give as much detail to the audience, I've had 2 or 3 weeks of literally trying to remember these things and doing everything. And I'm telling everything I've told you is actually, that's exactly what happened. But there's so many dark areas that don't register, even though it's on TV almost every week. And then the post, I didn't go and announce I was proud gay American, so it all kind of worked out. But I couldn't tell you when my next match was after this. You know what I mean? If I just picked up and started wrestling, or if the boys, I remember I could think like right after this happened, like, how's anybody going to bump or sell or want to work with me on anything? And for some reason, it worked out.
Okay, let's go back a minute or two. In fact, I'm just going to tell you what you actually did straight after this. So it's September, Unforgiven. You didn't wrestle the next day, but you wrestled a week after. You wrestled Rodney Mack. Week after that, you wrestled Chuck Palumbo. Week after that, Snitsky, then Rhino and Chijiro. You just carried on.
Like nothing ever happened.
Regularly.
So all these things they did for weeks and months, and they just, like, the fans watch. The fans have maybe not an emotional investment in it, but they're taking their hard-earned time and part of their life to watch this. And then the company just forgets about it and says to the fans, you wasted your time even giving this any kind of time.
Yeah, basically. You were on Raw more than you were on Heat in the next few months. So, yeah.
So I elevated my career.
Yeah, might well have done. So, that being said, right, let's actually go to the origins of Mystery Woman. In fact, I want to ask something that sort of goes with the with the match as well. Whose idea was it to dress you like an old woman? You're wearing a cardigan and a long pencil skirt for some reason. Why that dress? Who came up with that outfit?
I don't know. I have to assume it was Vince, or Vince had somebody else want to put that together. I just know that Vince had some more of time investment into this, whether it be a makeup chair, do this, do that. He wasn't by my side the entire time, but way more than anything before or after that I did outside of Right to Censor. So, and even then, after the first 2 months or so, he kind of left us to do our thing. So very strange. This is where I get into the part where I don't have a whole lot of, on this date at this time, this person said, you are going to be the mystery woman. I just remember them coming up and saying, you're going to be a mystery woman. You're going to stalk Victoria. Here's the clothes. This is what you're wearing. Go to the makeup chair.
But the thing is, you were helping her out in matches. Why were you stalking her as like a helpful stalker?
Maybe that's what Vince thinks a stalker is, somebody to be admired.
Depending on the brain he has.
I was the babyface when I stalked that woman.
August of 2004, Richards began appearing in drag as the Mystery Woman during Victoria's matches, helping her win. This is Wikipedia, by the way. The Mystery Woman's painfully obvious identity was revealed at Unforgiven after she saved Victoria from Tyson Tomko. Richards then quickly lost an impromptu match. Quickly. Lost an impromptu match.
Not quick enough.
No, not quick enough indeed. He went on a losing streak from Heat in April 19th, 2004 until... This is wrong. I know it's wrong because I've written it down. It says December 3rd, 2006. It wasn't. It's September 2006. I think you defeat Balls Mahoney on ECW TV. You do get a few wins over house shows, but aside from that, on television, you don't pick up a win for nearly 2.5 years. Why? Do you think it's all stemming from this or what?
Well, it could be a lot of things. Just that's what they think. That's the label that's put on me. Maybe it's a little bit of the Brad Armstrong thing where I'm so good at putting people over, making them look good. That's going to be my spot. And that has been my spot the majority of my career anyway. Also, they just didn't care. Probably the last part is the financials. I'm a $75,000 a year guy. If you come in as a $300,000 or $400,000 or $500,000 a year guy, they got to get the money back. 75 is a drop in a bucket. So that's why. Just throw me out there. I can have a good match. I'm low maintenance. I don't cause trouble. And you don't need to do anything with me.
I have a theory, and you tell me if I'm really off base with this, is that you were athletic in physique, but you were noticeably slimmer than most of the people you were wrestling, basically. And knowing that Vince McMahon, as we do now, loves the big bodies and everything like that, do you think that alone could just be, well, he's bigger, therefore he should win, kind of thing?
Well, and also, he can't make Stevie look good, but Stevie can make him look good. And Stevie can make anybody look good, so let's just have Stevie put people over. I mean, it got me a 10-year run, not a run, a 10-year job in WWE, being able to do that for people.
Did you ever, during this, when did you start picking up on it?
Picking up on the mystery woman?
No. Picking up on the fact that you were never getting the pins anymore. When did you pick up on it?
Probably right around the time I created Stevie Night Heat. Because I had to, and I had to give a reason to lose, and I had to have something to go off of to where people want to see me get beat for being a jerk. See, they could beat me every week, but give me a promo or something to do the next week so somebody else can beat me up. Like Simon Dean had the perfect spot because he was an obnoxious whatever, but every time he cut a promo, people wanted to see him get beat up, and he would cut a lot of promos. The scooter, the protein, the bag, the gym stuff, trying to tell people to lose weight, that gets you over, and then you can lose every night and still keep yourself over. ECW did that for me, James. I'd lose more than win in ECW, but what would happen in the next show? I would be doing something.
Mm-hmm. Did you, when you pinned Balls Mahoney, did you realize that's the first pin you got in 2.5 years?
No, I didn't care. And that was just to further the Kevin Thorne storyline with Balls. I had nothing to do with it.
Yeah, of course. I think at that point, do you know what? Someone actually wrote this in Project V6, said, just watched 8-hour Stevie Night Heat on YouTube. Somebody's out there has put the Stevie Night Heat compilation. It's ridiculously long. And, a huge amount of work has gone into it. And I know Stevie's appreciative as well. He says, I think you facing off against Test, and he was mocking you for Victoria no longer being on heat, and it looked like you were hulking up and the crowd was behind you for what looked like a face turn, yet you were the bad guy next week. What happened? So, yeah, would you even try and book your own face turns when you were doing the Stevie Night Heat thing?
Not necessarily, but if you put me in a Test with such an over heel in the company, what am I supposed to do? Make them relive the Unforgiven reaction? Nothing.
Let's never relive that again. Right, let's move on to Tyson Tomko, then we're going to do a couple of bits of news.
You have no idea how much I'm sweating right now.
I know. I know you've got a bad back as well, so you're being punished in all sorts of different ways. Well, we're going to move... Right, it's done. Mystery Woman's gone now. We'll never mention it again.
My back hurts from carrying that Mystery Woman angle.
Oh, the burden of that with you for over 20 years at this point. It's gone. It's done. Therapy over with now. Right.
You're going to burn some sage. Travis Scott, where are you at?
Yes.
Where are you at with that sage?
Stink up the room. That'll stop you sweating. You just heat it up a bit more. Right, let's go with Tyson Tomko, the problem solver. What was it like having to work with... Okay, right, so that you've got your Heidenreichs and your Snitskys and all these kind of massive guys that go in, and obviously you're the fodder for a lot of these guys who are, maybe not as trained as you'd hope they'd be, I guess. I don't know where Tyson Tomko sort of lands in that ballpark as far as like a worker goes, but he was just like another big dude on the... As a fan watching it, I see Tyson Tomko, another big guy. He just so happens to look like a security for a heavy metal band. But how was Tomko to work with at this time?
Oh, totally fine.
Really?
Tomko is one of the better ones. Yeah, 100%. I love the fact that Tomko came in as the problem solver with Christian. Then they reunited in TNA, the act with both of them together that worked out really, really well. Tomko had a really good run in TNA, at least from what I saw, and he never got to live up to his potential. I don't know why when I look at him, I think of Fast and Furious Vin Diesel. He looks like a giant Vin Diesel. But definitely, I think Tomko had a lot of upside that never got explored of how he could work. And he could talk. He could. It's just what's the promo? What's the character? You know what I mean? But he was a charismatic guy out of the ring. He could talk. He was comfortable. But he wasn't any more limited than any other pro wrestler. He could do what he could do, and he could do it very well, and he was safe.
I'm happy to hear you say that, actually, because I don't, he was lacking charisma maybe on screen, and as a fan, I was lumping him in with a lot of other guys, quite frankly. That's just my perception. So, I'm glad you sort of putting that.
But your perception is true because the company never made you believe and perceive him in any other way.
Yeah.
So it's uncreative.
He was really reduced after splitting off from Christian, as far as I remember, and he was just doing random tags. And here's something that
it's like they did. Sorry to interrupt. It's like they did the Diesel blueprint, but they didn't go all the way with the blueprint. They just took phase one and kept it in phase one.
Basically, yeah. It's one of those things where he was most over, I guess, when he first debuted, then just reduce, and I guess. So when he left WWE, I can't quite find the date. I'm sorry. I know I wrote it down. I don't know if it's beginning of 2006 or late 2005, somewhere around there. He actually leaves WWE of his own recognizance, I guess you might even say. It was a mutual thing. And even weirder, WWE.com called him up the next day to actually get the story from him. And they actually did, a tiny bit of actual journalism at that point. And he said, no, it was a complete simpatico. We were both happy to, leave it there kind of thing. They weren't giving me enough bookings. They weren't treating me seriously enough. I want to be a serious wrestler and be better. I want to go to Japan and train and really zone in on my training. I thought, man, how few people in 2006 would even dare do that?
It's very admirable. It really is. But then again, it's also self-preservation. So he'd rather leave on his own than get released and go and talk about, going to Japan and then TNA. And I think TNA actually did him way more good and explored that relationship with Christian better than WWE did.
Yes, I figure so. So he would split his time between TNA and New Japan, I think, for the next couple of years. He'd be teaming up with Giant Bernard, or Bernard, as you would pronounce it. Matt Bloom, A-Train, as another big guy who just, his potential wasn't being reached, I guess, in WWE and left. I think I don't know if WWE fired him or not, but he left and, made a better name for himself in New Japan as well. And then sort of by 2010, I guess, around that time, he sort of drops off the face of the earth, it seems. Maybe 2008 with TNA. I think he might have turned back up in TNA a bit later here and there. And then in 2011, things become a bit more obvious because I don't know how obvious it was to you at the time, horrendous drug issues that he ended up getting popped for robbery of a CVS pharmacy. And he was found injecting 170-something oxycodone pills.
I don't even know what to say about that. I know about the story, and I know about him going in that direction. I don't know anything. You said he reportedly is doing much better these days, thankfully, and I would have to concur with that. I have not talked to Tomko. I believe he might still live in Florida, so maybe I can look him up and see how he's doing and check in with him. But I have not talked to him since pretty much, I guess, the day or the week before he asked for his release and got it. That's all. I may have saw him.
He was in TNA at the same time you were, so, a few times.
Yeah, but I don't think we ever, I know, but we were doing I might have just said hello to him and that was it, but never really had any deep conversations. I think, you want to hear something funny? I think it's one of those things like I would see Tomko, shake his hand or give him a hug. How you doing, man? Blah, blah. But it's like we wanted to get away from each other as quickly as possible to not ever bring that night up again.
Yeah.
Or maybe we didn't want to be seen together because then someone else would rib us about that night.
I think he's on Instagram. I spotted him a couple of years ago. He was somebody I was like looking forward to, looking for interviewing at some point. And I just don't think I ever reached out, and I should have done. But yeah, as far as I could tell, he seems to be doing a lot better. So
good for him. Thank God. Thank God. You don't want anybody, no matter personal feeling. And Tomko I like, so it's not like, but anybody in the business, it goes beyond any personal feelings or not getting along with people. You don't want anybody to ever go down that road, and especially stay down that road.
Yeah, absolutely. We are going to leave it there for Unforgiven, at least. We're going to mention a couple of bits of news now. And the first big news really is, speaking of Tomko, at one point doing not so well with his health and, certain issues. Jim Ross, last week, he announced that he had colon cancer. Just a litany of issues since the 90s, from Bell's palsy, facial paralysis, permanent facial paralysis, or at least semi-permanent, I guess, several cases of that. Skin cancer, colon issues dating back to like 2005 kind of thing. He's had to take extended leaves from AEW the last couple of years due to health issues, and now this. As of yesterday, as we record this, he's already had surgery on his colon, and Conrad Thompson, who he does a podcast with, I'm sure everyone knows, Grilling JR, said that the surgery was a success. Jim Ross himself is looking forward to even maybe getting back to calling wrestling in a month or two as well. He's determined to have this beaten. Your thoughts on Jim Ross, I guess, in general, his health worries and anything else?
Yeah, I mean, it can't be, it has to be mentioned too that he lost his wife, Jan, which really hurt him and really set him. This is many, many years ago, but you never get over something like that. So JR's had he's had his share of obstacles to overcome, the ones you mentioned and the one I just mentioned as well, all equally as terrifying and scary and really just hard to overcome. One thing, much less all those things put together. So my heart goes out to him. Our prayers and our family go out to his, to see hopefully the surgery success. He doesn't need too much treatment that's going to kind of like really affect him, because that treatment I've seen it firsthand. That treatment is no joke, and hopefully he can get back to doing what he loves. I definitely want to reach out to him and see how he's doing. It's just not being on social media and not checking out any of the news or anything outside of what you tell me. This makes me feel bad because I had no idea he even had it. I had no idea there was surgery. I had no idea of any of these things. So that's all that can be said. I mean, just keep fighting, JR. Keep fighting and keep wanting to be around, because you're a much needed asset in this world, and especially in professional wrestling. And yes, you have a question here about, is Jim Ross the greatest play-by-play commentator ever? Yes. Yes.
Okay, which era of JR? NWA, WCW, WWF?
All of them are equally as great, in a different, even the good old JR with the cowboy hat. Every reincarnation, I guess, or adjustment or environment that JR commentates Even didn't he commentate New Japan with Josh Barnett a couple of times too?
Yeah, for a while on Access, not Access. It's the channel that Ring of Honor was on at one point as well, wasn't it? What was
Sinclair.
Sinclair. I think that was on there for a few years.
He was really, really good. Now, sometimes with the names, anybody's going to have difficulties with those names. But JR, in other words, you're talking about, is he great in NWA, WCW, WWF, WWE with the name change, AEW, New Japan? It doesn't matter. It's still Jim Ross, the most recognizable voice outside of Vince McMahon's. I'd put Joey Styles in there, but Joey's a solo one-man commentary. It's different. JR can hand things to King or other people that are commentating with him, and that's difficult in its own right. Let's think about this. AEW, JR still stood out commentating and will still stand out commentating when he comes back. So when he did that, how many people were in the commentary booth? Anywhere from another 1 to 3 people. And JR still managed to control the narrative and keep business moving forward. Yes, 100% the greatest. I would say the only person that would give him a run for his money in that 2-3-man commentary booth would be Vince McMahon. But I'd prefer JR because it feels like a football announcer, a baseball, a professional sports announcer doing the show.
One of those underrated commentary teams is Jim Ross and Bobby Heenan, because I think they were like Wrestling Challenge or something in '93, and they were a good commentary team that I don't think gets mentioned.
They commentated WrestleMania 9
with
WrestleMania
Savage.
9 in
I
Vegas.
love Savage as a commentator. Some people hate him. I love him.
You just get used to it. I mean, in Savage, you might think, well, Savage is a little over the top with the voice and everything. But think about it. Savage never, and I noticed this, unless it was a personal issue, they're mostly with Crush during that WrestleMania 10 storyline. Savage never talked about, well, I would do this and I would do that. Savage completely removed himself as a worker and dove into the commentary. Did you notice that?
It's not by his own choice. He had so much to give, but yeah.
Yeah, I know about giving. I'm talking about he could have went into business for himself and overshadowed the match with talking about what he did.
Like Jesse.
He never
would have done. I mean, as much as I love Jesse would do that a lot.
Oh, Jesse on the cage match.
Awful.
Did you hear that?
Awful.
They took him off the show, didn't they?
Man.
He didn't commentate after that match, did he?
No, but he's done that for all 3 of them so far. He does one match.
Well, this time it worked out because I think it's on Botchamania, right?
It should be if it isn't. But man, he just kept going on with himself, making up stuff. Something I want to ask you about Jim is your relationship with him as talent vice president. I don't know how many times talked to him or went with grievances or questions or whatever to Jim, but how would he receive you if you had a query or a complaint or anything? How was he as a boss, basically?
Well, I mean, obviously he uses a lot of terminology with football teams, rosters, players, so I can appreciate that as a football fan. The only real deep interaction I ever had with JR is the most important one of my life. That's where I had gained weight. I was up to 262. This was after that weigh-in Milwaukee where I weighed more than Bull Buchanan, Val Venus, and almost as much as Godfather. And that's when Ivory said, you're fat. Well, JR pulled me into the office. This is just before I went to HWA to train with Les Thatcher with a lot of the guys that were on the bubble to get released. He sat me down and he goes, your work rate and everything has diminished. You're not in shape anymore. You're missing spots. Your bumps look awful. He just basically, he gave me the honest feedback that I needed to hear. Not at that moment, but I needed to hear. And he goes, you need to go down to developmental. You need to take the weight off. You need to get better. We still might release you after that, but I'm giving you an opportunity to turn it around. That's what should exist more in wrestling. Real, true, honest feedback. And with an open-ended thing, a challenge. Hey, you go down here, you do that, you could save your job or you couldn't. Well, I'm thinking, well, okay, I got to get back in shape because at least I'll save my job. And if not, I'll be in shape to go somewhere else. So that interaction meant the world to me.
with the commentary, I don't know how many wrestlers, how many performers would do this, but would you ever go to Jim, or specifically Jim, let's say, because, you know, he'd be commentating on Raw a lot of the times when you were wrestling. Would you go up to him and try and explain certain things that you would do, or, you know, give him basically the reasoning that then he could explain to the fans at home?
I was never on that level for him to understand. And usually commentators go to the boys and ask questions. Usually that's something that the wrestler is commentating with JR or whatever. Kevin Kelly would ask for notes, Michael Cole sometimes, those kinds of people. Oh, I do have one other interaction that I had with JR. And this is when, I'm trying to remember the exact year. This is the late 90s. This is after ECW, my neck injury, all that stuff. I went to Titan Towers to try out for commentary with JR, and I was terrible. And I remember the Rocky match and dropping to people's elbow, and I was trying to really put it over, but I wasn't speaking in sound bites. And I found myself speaking as much as JR did, and it was a mistake. I even apologized afterwards. I go, JR, I'm not very good at this, but I want to get good. And then he was just kind of whatever. But you guys remember JR was getting ribbed by Vince all the time and, you know, basically tortured by that maniac. So he probably was in the back of his mind, like, I just want to get in, get out, and go home.
That was actually going to be my follow-up question. It's like, people always remember, or people always hear stories about Howard Finkel. Poor Howard Finkel would just be an absolute whipping boy for the people in the back. We've got to talk about Howard at some point in the future, future episode. But Jim Ross always struck me as somebody who would just eat poo, take all these lumps. But people, what was it about Jim that everyone was it, as a fan, everyone loved him? I don't know about all the wrestlers, but what was it about The Office that apparently just didn't get on with Jim?
I have no idea. Do you think, this is purely speculation, do you think there's a hint of jealousy from Vince McMahon, the former commentator, and JR? Did Vince deep down think JR did a better job and it pissed Vince off?
I don't think you're too far off with that as well, because he fired him 5 times. I think it was as much Kevin Dunn. Just like, yeah, you're too southern, you know, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And it's like nonsense.
You're right up there with taking dental hygiene advice from Kevin, from whatever his name is.
Yeah. Or, you know, being
I love when Cornette. That's my guilty pleasure whenever you bring up that name, the Cornette, and hear the stories.
Yeah, in fairness, whatever half impression I'm doing, it's just based on Cornette. So,
yeah, go to Cornette. He does the best impression of all.
Oh, God, yeah, absolutely. Well, once again, we have to say, you know, get well soon, Jim Ross. We hope you're...
Yeah, let's go back. Yeah, that's beside the point. JR, please, the business needs you, but the world needs you. Just heal up, rest, and make sure, and let's all really just send him our thoughts and prayers that that thing is gone forever. He'll be in full remission, and he can get back to trying to call botches on AEW.
Absolutely. Or you know, just hating it when people do the 10 punches in the corner.
You know what? JR, I don't know. There's a version of JR that's almost like Do-Rag Vince on commentary where he's a menace. He just doesn't care, and he's like, oh, God, no, that was something.
Do you know what? They treat Jim Ross, right, like he's Jesse Ventura. You know, they only bring him out for the main event or the semi-main event. It's like, he can still do it. I mean, I know he sounds older and, you know, he probably doesn't keep up with the product as much as, you know, Tony Schiavone does as well, but it'd be nice to hear a bit more Jim.
How about if you do this? How about if you put something on the monitor that JR can interpret and get you over?
Wow. You mean like doing 6 finishes and kicking out of them all? It's like, well, it's obviously not a finisher then.
What's he supposed to say after the first 4? Yeah. Hey, I think there's a time limit.
So before we shut down the show for this week, we have to do what went wrong, because we did 2 what went rights with Willaim Regal and Fit Finlay. But this one's from WWE RAW this past Monday. It is a triple threat match: Penta, Chad Gable, and Dragon Lee.
Chad Gable is so amazingly fortunate and lucky, and I'm sure he has huge traps. He trained in amateur wrestling. That could have a lot to do with it, but still, this is beyond even one of the botch watches, which we have up here on YouTube as a YouTube exclusive. When that guy did like the 630 or the shooting star and landed the exact way, even me doing this hurts. And I didn't take the spot Chad Gable took. And it's just like, what are you trying to do with all this stuff? This is crazy. This is almost, I hate to say it because we're not trying to make fun of him. This is beyond even an AEW level spot as far as like, this makes no sense whatsoever. So let me play it right here. All right, right here. It's just, what are you setting up for? On both sides of this, you have a pedigree here and you have a gory special where the guy will drop backwards, I assume, right? That's the, so you got two separate kind of bumps here and you have Penta trying to hold. This is literally this thumbnail or this screenshot right here, James. This literally should say, you know the rest. You know what would be cool? And there it is. Why? I mean, just, first of all, why are you even doing a pile driver in the first place? You do the Mexican Destroyer, right? Which is a lot more impactful and looks a lot more exciting than this. So why are you doing a pile driver when the finish is the Mexican Destroyers towards the finish, right?
I don't think he's going for a pile driver, though. I think he was trying to do something else, like a pancake.
But he still has his arms hooked.
I know. Is he not going for like a underhook pancake kind of thing and falling forward? Or was he... I don't know. What's he trying to do?
Kill Chad Gable. Oh, my God. Look at this. That is a broken neck. If this guy... I'm saying he has a strong neck. Plus, you see what I mean? Like, this is where I've watched this a few times. You have this guy in your back right here. He's hooked here and hooked here. Now I'm assuming, are you just, my assumption here is this. You're going to do a Paul Orndorff type pile driver, but you have the double underhook. So you got it set up almost like a package pile driver from Kevin Owens with a gory special. And then when you fall, you don't fall on your butt this way, away towards the back. You start to fall, and then you kind of go down forward, and then his neck goes this way. See? He leans forward and then, like, drops to his butt. Instead of dropping to his butt and letting Chad Gable just kind of be tucked between his legs. But this is... Now, did that bust him open, or did the kick from the other guy bust him open? Remember he had the big egg on his head?
Oh, great question. Do we even have the kick as video?
I have the kick, I believe.
Oh, good. Because I know we've got the powerbomb that's coming up as well. I'm still unsure of what that move was supposed to look like if it went right.
And by the way, the other guy in the back's not even landed flat for the gory special because the ropes are right here. So the position's all wrong. The setup, why wouldn't you just set it up to where you give the gory special? Is that Ray Phoenix's brother, or is that Dragon Lee?
It's Dragon Lee.
Dragon Lee. So why not give the gory special to Dragon Lee? He takes it there. And then as you do, Chad turns him around as he's looking at Dragon Lee, whips him off the ropes, puts his head down, Mexican Destroyer right off the bat. But they do the Mexican Destroyer, and then he hits him. He hits Chad with the finish, right? With the Michinoku type driver. I honestly couldn't tell you. This is but he's grabbing. I think he's bleeding right there, unless he's just red. He's grabbing right where the big hematoma was.
I've got a question.
I don't know if he got mat burn.
Is it worse, or is it more dangerous for your neck if you fall down and your head is like up, or if it's down? What's worse?
Oh, back. The exact way he landed is the way you break your C1. Tucking the chin prevents you still might break your neck. But this here is a severed spinal cord injury. Hitting back like that. You're not meant to do that. That's why kind of the styles clash confuses a lot of wrestlers, because you're always conditioned to tuck your chin. And this is, outside of a moonsault, that is never done.
That's why I've got a theory that he was going for a pancake, is because he's got his head up rather than tucked. That'd be one of the only moves where that would be the case, would it not?
Let me ask you a question about that. Then why is his legs remaining this way? And the thing is, his legs are remaining in place. Dragon Lee is locked in. Penta's locked in on Chad Gable. So is it going to be a tiger driver or something like the Pearl River Plunge, and then they come down and then Dragon Lee? Because Dragon Lee has no room. Look at where they're at in the ring. He might think he has room, but when they come up, he's going to hit the ropes. He's going to get hot-shotted on that bottom rope. So I honestly don't know, man. Real time. He lost him. Did you see that little stutter? Watch when he picks him up. His legs are shaking. And that little stutter, see his legs? He's trying to get his footing, and he loses it.
Penta is billed at 5'11 and 207 pounds. Even if he had pulled this off completely, why is he doing superhuman power spots when he's barely 200 pounds?
That is the first objection I would give. This is not your moveset to pick two guys up at once. Hey, Rick Boogs. All you got to do is look at that guy that picked up both Usos in a fairly safe throw, right? Blew his knee out.
He was doing something stupid, though. He was trying to do that, one-leg lunge kind of thing, which I know he does with people. But he was doing it with about 460 pounds on his back, and he blew his knee out. That's how he managed it. But if he was just doing the John Cena thing, he probably would have been fine, doing an FU or similar.
The thing with Penta, too, is, and I talked about his debut a while ago, got a lot of comments off of that. He finally found his groove and his niche. I'm starting to, told you before, 6 to 12 months, right? Now I can start getting into Penta and what he's doing. But then what if he blew his knee? What if he was out for a year? All that momentum, the Money in the Bank thing, and then he's going over in this qualifying match, right? So what if he blows his knee out and they got to do the audible finish like they did with the girl last week? Who was that? See, I already forget. Oh, yeah, Zoe Stark. Zoe Stark.
Yes. We still don't know how her knee is, there's been no word other than that it's a knee injury.
I have no idea either. But this guy's lucky. Everybody's lucky that all three of them didn't get hurt. This is a recipe for a disaster.
Who's the kind of agent who would do this, who would approve this spot? Or would this kind of spot in 2025 need approval, or is there more autonomy between the guys now?
I would assume there's autonomy, but I also looked at the crew of producers / agents. There's something to be said, although we make fun of Garea. Hey, what are you, smartass? We make fun of Garea or whatever, or have fun with talking about it. But I would prefer to have an older veteran wrestler, a Regal, a Finlay, that can explain okay, not even tell me not to do it, James, but this. Okay, tell me why. Tell me why you're doing it. What's the, give me all the stuff before and after and during. Why would this spot add something to the match? I guarantee you 100 out of 100 in today's, not the Randy Ortons and stuff I'm talking about, at this age or level, because it's cool. That's not a reason. And that agent will say, that's not a good enough reason. Exit out. Think of something else. The agent's job is to protect the talent from themselves. And these agents do a piss poor job of it. Wait, how many times do we have this happening?
It does seem weekly at the moment. I mean, with Zoe Stark and such. There's endless material. I mean, it's great for the podcast, I guess. Dragon Lee's 30. I mean, he's younger of the two, but the other two guys are nearly 40. I mean, Chad Gable's 39 and Penta's 41.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
Yeah, so these are not young guys taking.
And they made a drastic. They made a drastic reversal on the unwritten rule, because I remember they hired Rico at in his mid to late 30s, and they were like, "Oh my God!" Even Boogeyman had to hide his age at the time on Tough Enough. Remember that?
Mm-hmm. 40.
But now they're reversing
40.
it to
No, sorry, he goes 30. What's your real age? 40. Get out. We don't like liars. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I sure do. You love liars. See, that was the part. Lying by omission or truth by omission. Truth commission. So the next part of this is the powerbomb spot, which we talked about whatever that move was a a gory special reverse pile driver, I guess you're going to call it. But here we go with the power bomb. I'm telling you, Chad Gable is the toughest guy in the world right now. They're just trying. What are they doing to this guy? He's every bit of what Kurt Angle was. Entertainment-wise, work rate-wise, he's shredded beyond belief. He gives everything they give him. He scores a touchdown with. I love the lie detector thing. Remember that? When he started the Alpha Academy stuff? He's so entertaining. But this is just, he gets this. He's legitimately injured. Then in the back, they force him to take a punch and a bump from AJ Styles. Like, what do you hate? Next thing you know, he's going to be wearing a wig and a dress. I mean, my God. This is crazy. This is a high tuck kind of power bomb, like sit out power bomb. I understand. You can't do that. Like, look at how, I mean, it's impressive looking. Dragon Lee is jumping up in the air. But Dragon Lee, do you notice something here, James? I'm going to quiz you a little bit.
Okay.
What do you notice about Dragon Lee and the trajectory of his bump?
He's going forward.
Downward.
Okay.
He's not sitting out. He's driving him down into the mat. That's why he landed high.
Is this because he's trying to hook his arms at the same time in one fell swoop, and that's why he's doing this?
But here's the thing. He can jump up, spread his legs out, right? Sit straight down, and even if he doesn't get them, the legs come over the arms. This is what bothers me, okay? Overarching theme of everything. I couldn't remember that it was Zoe Stark just a week ago that blew her knee out and may never wrestle again. I can't remember if this dangerous spot happened before or after the last dangerous spot we just broke down and analyzed. That's not me being heartless. That's not being me dismissive. That's not me not caring. That's when you do not make special moments creatively in this product. And this show is coming off how many hours of SmackDown, Saturday night's main event, and then another 3 hours. Oversaturation and exhaustion. And then if you're trying to create moments throughout all those hours, you create no moments because I can't remember it all. And I'm paid to remember it. So what do you think a casual fan's going to do? So please, everybody out there, do not take it as I don't watch the product. Do not take it as I don't care. I'm on my phone. When it comes to this stuff, especially, I examine it multiple times before we even do the show. Certain botches like Botch Watch, I just react off it. But stuff where I know Chad got hurt and he got messed up, I'm going to watch it because I want to know what happened. But I can guarantee you without a shadow of a doubt, and not because of CTE, that for episode 49, I will forget all about this because it doesn't matter. Because they just keep feeding you nothing that matters on these shows.
The tickets are cheap.
Yeah, exactly. I recounted the lie detector test, which was a year to 18 months ago. But I can't tell you one spot. And I won't be able to tell you about these spots a week, 2 weeks, definitely a month from now. Unless they repeat them.
Chad Gable's got a big match against Vikingo in 2 weeks, I think, as we record this, or, week after next, something like that, because it's at the same day as Money in the Bank. And the funny thing is that they've advertised it as a AAA Mega Championship match. Vikingo is not the title holder, and neither is Chad Gable. It's Alberto Del Rio. Wouldn't you know that Vikingo versus Alberto Del Rio is happening this weekend?
So they gave the finish away.
Well, they've given the finish away of this weekend's match, yeah. Obviously, they didn't air it in Mexico, but they aired it everywhere else in the world. That it was going to be a AAA Mega Championship match.
It was this past weekend, not next weekend.
Oh, no. Right, so this weekend coming is Vikingo versus Alberto El Patron, actually. The weekend after, it is Vikingo versus Chad Gable for the Mega Championship, right?
but they announced the title match before this title match happens where Alberto has the title.
Alberto currently has the title. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. What I'm saying is we know there's going to be a title change because WWE already gave it away. That's what I'm saying.
Oh, yeah.
So how do you think Alberto Del Rio feels about that, knowing full
Pretty
well?
bummed out considering he's just signed with WWE, or at least a AAA version or WWE version of AAA's contract now as well. So they're getting him out of the way quickly.
You can sign a contract and get released the next day. Just so everybody remember, contracts are only one-sided. That means Alberto can get out of it if he wants to, but WWE, after that title match, do you think they're going to release him? Or let him hang on and guess?
They might let him hang on for a bit, but I don't see Alberto going to WWE or wrestling on WWE shows for a while. Or ever.
We'll see.
I just thought it was a funny aside.
Well, that's also when you have so many hours of wrestling and so many companies and so much developmental and all these TVs, guess what happens? You don't know that. You might think it happened last weekend and you announce it, but that's next weekend. Oversaturation and just content exhaustion at the same time.
Are you saying that 8 hours of first run A show content is too much? I know that's what you're saying. Anyway,
I can't even watch 8 hours of a live cat sanctuary stream, and I love it. So there you go. Love it.
Is that, you've never told me you do that.
My wife and I
you do that.
Friends of Feline. Yeah, they have all special needs cats, CH, the shaky cats. Yeah, that's who we donated money to on behalf of the Patreon supporters that 1 month.
We'll keep the webcams rolling for a bit longer with that as well, I'm sure. Right, we're going to shut down the show, man, because I'm getting hungry. And once again, I said, right, it's 2 hours. I said, right, we're going to keep this to 2 hours. I absolutely promise you we'll keep it 2 hours. We've never done 2 hours. When was the last time we did 2 hours?
I think on the YouTube trailer. Under 2 hours.
That might be it. No, the solo show was under 2 hours. I think one other one was. I can't remember what it was. But anyway, there you go. You get your money's worth, basically. Not that you pay for it unless you pay for the Patreon. And talking of Patreons as well, before Stevie actually says thank you to all the Patreon supporters and everything else, I will say thank you once again for joining us. We're out every single Friday on all podcast platforms and, of course, YouTube, 2 p.m. Eastern. We aim for, anyway. There's a lot of editing that goes in these things, so it's just whenever we can get them out. But we'll be back out next week with, we think, Unforgiven Part 2, because there's so much more that we've got to say about the pay-per-view itself, more so than Mystery Woman. Mystery Woman's dead, gone. We're never dealing with it again. It's away.
All the bookings are going to start coming in for the Mystery Woman now.
They should do. Are you going to take them?
Better be a Saudi payoff, that's all I'm saying.
Okay, that's fine.
I
think you've earned it.
And I'm getting a ton of bobby pins that keep that wig in. You're never going to see my face.
Why don't you do like a luchador mask with the wig sewn in? Like, who did that? Loads of people have done that. Psychosis. You should do it that way.
Psychosis did that. Who else did it? Al Snow's Avatar, where he took the mask off before he wrestled, which was
awful.
We've all paid our penance, including Al Snow.
Yeah, he's paid penance, I'm sure, for multiple people throughout his career with some of the stuff he's been forced to do. Right, we're going to shut down the show, everybody. Thank you so much. We'll catch you again next Friday. Stevie, take us out with a thank you to the Patreon supporters.
Yeah, thank you very much, everybody, on patreon.com/Stevie Richards, as well as here on YouTube. We appreciate all the support from everybody out there. We're working on a different ending. If you're on Patreon, I'm talking about it with Chris, trying to edit stuff, trying to put together. John Worthy, who sings that song you're listening to right now, Never Lie to You. We're going to actually have the rights to use the music video, so we're going to try to shorten the pitch here, and the credits will roll, and his music video will play. I'm working with John to get that copyright clear. We have full copyright rights to use the song, so we can use the music video as well. Thank you so much to everybody out there. Remember, Stevie Richards Fitness, as well as WSI, and James has a new channel coming very soon. Please stay tuned for that, or at least we're working on it, trying to do that. And once again, also Cameo, thank you to everybody out there who I've communicated with back and forth on Cameo. We appreciate all the support. Like I said, thank you so much for watching episode 48. We got through it. I have such a migraine. I'm nauseous.
Yeah. Do you know what we haven't done?
What? I don't know, man. See you next week for episode 49.